Chapter 67, Heaven-Shaking Roar. Chapter 67, Heaven-Shaking Roar. Xuaningxiang turned to Zhuofan with a start. Zhuofan spoke while gazing at the weeds around the cave. That is soothing grass. That's perfect, it can help relieve fatigue. What is wrong with that? Xie Tianyang asked. Zhuofan said annoyed, that's true for humans, but for spiritual beasts, it has a calming effect that attracts nearby spiritual beasts. Xie Tianyang was anxious, that means, trap? Zhuofan nodded, yes, a trap made by predators. The burrowing mouse was drawn here and led us right to it. Curses, you can just bury your head and run, but we'll have to suffer. Why had I taken you in any way? Xie Tianyang snapped at the critter. He wasn't as brash usually, but he was now hurt and powerless to resist an attack. In this grim state, falling in a trap was the last straw to escape from the seventh elder, yet die in a beast's trap was something this genius disciple couldn't accept. The burrowing mouse squeaked a few times with a lowered head. Xuaningxiang hugged it to her chest and spoke softly to Zhuofan, what do we do now? She had ill feelings towards Zhuofan, but she always turned to him for help when the going got tough. What else? Run. Xie Tianyang cut him off. Zhuofan asked hastily, what time is it? Xuaningxiang looked outside the cave, but the rain clouds blocked the sky. She shook her head, I'm not sure, a day must have passed by now. Damn. Zhuofan said gravely, the energy concealing pill must have worn off and we are now easy targets. I'm guessing beasts must be coming here in droves. What? Xie Tianyang jumped, you said, droves? Zhuofan nodded, the truly strong spiritual beasts don't stoop so low to use this trick. Only low-level spiritual beasts place traps and move in packs. Just then, along with the sound of rain, roars of beast echoed, and several pairs of cruel eyes fixed on the cave's mouth. A rough look would spot around 1,000 heads. Bloodthirsty wolf. Zhuofan sighed, we're finished. Bloodthirsty wolves are second-level spiritual beasts, but with their numbers, they must have a third-level wolf king among them. Not even a fourth-level spiritual beast would dare to mess with them. Xie Tianyang saw the faint green eyes getting ever closer. Woe is me, heaven must be jealous of my outstanding talent and wants to pluck me. Xuaningxiang looked worried while Zhuofan had his trademark unflappable expression. Xie Tianyang. Zhuofan said, give your sword to Ninga. Ninga. Xie Tianyang didn't understand, my star sword may be a fourth-grade spiritual weapon, but Ninga is in the chi condensation stage. It's not enough to deal with those savage beasts. He spoke of the difference in cultivation and leveled his eyes at Zhuofan, she isn't like you, fighting bone tempering and profound heaven experts while in chi condensation stage. Zhuofan smiled, Ninga won't be fighting the beasts, but escaping their encirclement. He took out a bottle from his ring but didn't have the strength to lift it. Ninga, take this energy-concealing pill. Zhuofan spoke calmly, use it to leave all Beast Mountain range once you break the encirclement, but don't go to your clan. Leave the city. Xie Tianyang now understood Zhuofan's plan. So he too took out his star sword. Their debt to Ninga was too great, and at this point, they were nothing but dead weights. Seeing their firm gazes, Xuaningxiang took the sword and ran outside. Both Xie Tianyang and Zhuofan revealed a smile, feeling a weight being lifted off their chests. This way, we can repay her kindness. Even if we die, we can do it free of regret. Xie Tianyang mumbled. Zhuofan spoke blandly, I don't care about returning favors, just felt unwilling to die like this. I just don't want this girl to keep looking after me. Humph, how cold-hearted. Xie Tianyang snapped. After that short banter, the two were at peace, waiting for the bloodthirsty wolves to devour them. But then wails came, followed by blood splattering on both of them. When they looked towards the mouth of the cave, they were shocked to see Xuaningxiang standing guard at the entrance. Some bloodthirsty wolves were circling around trying to enter but were cut down by her with her standing guard, and this being the only entrance, the wolves were kept at bay. Ninga, what are you doing? Zhuofan shouted. Xuaningxiang slashed and 3 more wolves fell. She looked back with a shy smile, see, with me standing here, they will never get in. Idiot, those are nothing but cannon fodder. The Wolf King wouldn't care if they died. He's trying to tire you out before killing you. Zhuofan cursed, but his eyes were filled with worry. Xuaningxiang smiled, that Wolf King is a beast uncaring for his pack, but you are my most important friends. I won't abandon you. She killed another 2 incoming wolves. Because of the blood loss and the fatigue of carrying the 2, she felt weak and pale. She was shaking with the wind and seemed like she might collapse any second. Yet her eyes were headstrong. Xueningsiang slashed, again and again, piling wolf corpses at her feet in a pool of blood. Her brows were drenched, her breathing haggard, her arms numb, but her back remained straight against the incoming storm. Watching her frail body, Xuefan's eyes filled with warmth. He closed his eyes, not wishing to see the end as pain laced his heart. Xuefan, Xie Tianyang yelled, I just realized, we're both damn bastards. Xuefan groaned a response. Xie Tianyang looked over to Xueningsiang braving outside, and he also closed his eyes. Xueningsiang let out a cry as a wolf bit her wrist when her strength failed her. It then pinned her to the ground. Then another wolf pounced on her other hand. She wanted to get up and keep fighting but felt too weak to move. She had surpassed the limits of her body long ago and was now powerless to deal with two weak wolves. She couldn't even feel the blood flowing out from the bite wounds on her hands. Xuefan and Xie Tianyang knew this was going to happen but kept their eyes closed. They wanted to be spared from the sight of the girl getting mauled while two wolves pinned her arms. The rest were closing in as Xueningsiang's breathing grew faint. If they could, the two in the cave would have covered their ears in celebration of a successful hunt. The pack howled and the Wolf King, 3 times bigger than the rest, strutted before Xueningsiang licking its fangs. The Wolf King howled and opened its maw to ravage Xueningsiang. With her eyes blacking out, all she could see were vague shapes. Xuefan and Xie Tianyang still had their eyes closed. Roar. Just as the Wolf King was about to bite her, a sudden roar echoed from deep within the All-Beast mountain range. Xuefan and Xie Tianyang blanked out the moment it reached them. The 1,000 bloodthirsty wolves' pack collapsed one after the other, with only the Wolf King staggering from fear. But before it could retreat, a flame swept over the wolves, not even leaving ash behind. Even the Wolf King couldn't survive and disappeared from this world. Unbelievable enough, Xuefan's party survived unharmed, though unconscious. Xuefan vaguely heard someone calling him and opened his eyes. What is with this foggy place? Where am I? He looked around, but then it occurred to him, he was heavily wounded, so how could he move? Suddenly, 2 blue flames ignited. It fused together to reveal a burning blue-robed figure floating high above. Is your name Xuefan? I heard the 2 kids call you as such. The figure smiled. His voice fit a sturdy middle-aged man, but it wasn't clear from his appearance. Xuefan was suspicious. Who are you? You don't need to know. The figure replied, this is my domain, and here, I ask the questions. Xuefan, why have you come to All-Beast mountain range? The blue figure asked. Xuefan thought for a moment, to capture a spiritual beast and make it my demonic creature. What spiritual beast? 6th level spiritual beast, Thunder Skylark. Why? Xuefan's eyes swiveled. Why else? To increase my power. Boom. A loud noise resounded and Xuefan felt like his head was about to explode. Ha ha ha. The figure laughed. Boy, we are inside your consciousness. It's easy for me to tell when you lie. Xuefan looked at the figure in fear. He could enter others' consciousness on his own. Such power went beyond Radiant stage, maybe even above the mortal domain. Are you from the sacred domain? Xuefan gasped. He never thought that it was possible to run into a sacred domain's expert in the mortal domain. The figure was also surprised that Xuefan knew about sacred domain and nodded. You aren't normal to know of sacred domain, to apply ancient arrays, and refine the blood infant. Xuefan was shocked to find that all his actions were monitored. This man even knew of blood infant. Matters regarding Patriarch Blood Demon were decades old and very few people knew of them even in the sacred domain. If he hadn't stumbled upon the 9 Serenities' secret records, he would be none the wiser. But who exactly are you? I said it before, only I ask the questions here. The figure replied coldly, why do you want the Thunder Skylark? Speak the truth. Xuefan was pensive, but found no way out. I want to go to Lightning Canyon and search for the Heavenly Emperor's remnant. For that, I need the Thunder Skylark to block the purple lightning. What? The blue figure never anticipated such an answer, but laughed in glee. Ha ha ha, good. Great even. That is a good place. You should definitely go. The figure vanished and popped right in front of Xuefan's face. Xuefan was startled but didn't pick up any bad intentions from him. The figure then tapped Xuefan's forehead and a blue flame seeped in. Xuefan only felt gentle energy from his forehead. Ha ha ha. Boy, we are fated, so here's a gift. I hope you can help me in the future. The figure was gone but his words rang in Xuefan's ears. You can find the thunder skylark 3,000 miles into the third area. Do your best to catch it. Chapter 68, Between Life and Death. Chapter 68, Between Life and Death. Wait. Zhuo Fan sat up with a start. A ray of sunshine shone through the cave's mouth and forced him to cover his eyes. To his surprise, he found that he could actually move. Although still weak, he was mostly recovered. Inspecting himself in detail, he found the blood infant laying depressed in his dantian, but its life was no longer hanging by a thread. Even its eyes were trembling, on the verge of waking up. Being shocked was an understatement. Zhuo Fan knew the expert he met last night was someone who rose above the mortal domain. Or he wouldn't have had the ability to heal his wounds overnight along with blood infants. But why did he choose me? Zhuo Fan rubbed his forehead, recalling that the man had planted something there. But his weak self didn't allow him to see clearly what it was. He shook his head. In the end, it doesn't matter, anyway he saved me. Whatever his reasons are, I will figure them out sooner or later. With his current strength, what could he do against that man? Mocking himself, he realized that he was overthinking things sometimes. It had to do with the fact that he was in the 6th layer of chi condensation with the heart of an emperor stage expert. What a pain. So, his current objective was to boost his strength. The strong had the final say in everything. He sighed as he looked at the incoming sunshine. Despite the somber feeling exuding from the burned trees, the sun brought a ray of hope. A groan interrupted his musing, and Zhuo Fan found Xue Ningxiang's weak figure in a pool of blood. He rushed to her and fed a heart-protecting pill. A gentle yuan qi traveled within her body, and Zhuo Fan breathed easy. The girl's wounds were only skin deep. She had overused her yuan qi in her fight against the bloodthirsty wolves and needed just a few days to recover. But the pale face of Xue Ningxiang brought another wave of worry in his heart. He then started to remove the dirt from her face. Feeling his rough hand, Xue Ningxiang cracked her eyes open and showed a sweet smile. Brother Zhuo, are we dead? Rest easy, we are alive and well. Liar, how are you able to move when you were so hurt? Xue Ningxiang mumbled, but, at least we died together. And the girl faded into unconsciousness at the last word. Zhuo Fan watched her peaceful expression and carried her inside the cave to lay her next to the soothing grass. It was the best item in relieving fatigue for humans. Now he was standing beside the unconscious Xie Tianyang, with a not-so-friendly face. Yo, get up I say. Zhuo Fan kicked him lightly, twice for good measure, but he was still as a rock. Zhuo Fan sneered and swung his leg way back before kicking with enough oomph on Xie Tianyang's ass. Ah! A wail that shook the heavens and the forest was heard. It even frightened the spiritual beasts around. I say, what's with this ghastly yell? Trying to wake the heavens? The All-Beast mountain range doesn't lack dreadful monsters, you know. Xie Tianyang shivered as he reined in his tears. What is this place? What did I ever do to deserve such cruelty even in death? Is kicking once cruel? You, a sword marquis's abode young master, have seen nothing yet. Zhuo Fan smiled at Xie Tianyang's shocked face. Xie Tianyang was startled seeing Zhuo Fan. Did you kick me? Why the hell, we clearly died together, so why can you hit me? Zhuo Fan grinned. If we're dead, all of us would be equals. Too bad, we are alive and kicking. And since you weren't moving. What, we're alive? Xie Tianyang stopped listening after that and laughed. Ha ha ha, it's the same cave. We are alive. But then his mood soured, eyeing Zhuo Fan up and down before yelling, why are you able to move while I can't? You had it far worse than me and your cultivation is weaker too. Zhuo Fan shrugged and perked an eyebrow, exasperating the self-entitled genius disciple. Xie Tianyang's lip quivered as he wailed in frustration, freak. Not for the life of him could he comprehend how Zhuo Fan was jumping around after having his life hanging by a thread just 2 days ago. Even he, a bone-tempering expert, would need 2 months of recovery to be able to stand. He was vexed enough knowing that Zhuo Fan was stronger than him, despite their realm difference, and better skilled than him, despite their differences in background. Now though, this damn punk showed a miracle, jumping back on his feet in no time at all. How can one even bloody compare? It's like being left light years behind. Zhuo Fan, tell me the truth. Who the heck are you? Xie Tianyang spat. Zhuo Fan lost his smile and patted Xie Tianyang's shoulder. Human of course, though just slightly above average. Xie Tianyang was pissed off by Zhuo Fan's attitude. But his bad state didn't help him vent, and even if he could move, Zhuo Fan's array would just splatter him into pieces. This made bitter tears flow down his cheeks. A genius disciple's pride was crushed completely. Nonetheless, Zhuo Fan moving about had its upside. He could set up an array to defend them. Xie Tianyang had nothing to say to that. It brought far more advantage with Zhuo Fan recovered than if it was him instead. His cultivation only helped protect himself in such a place, let alone others. Spirit stones flew out of his ring and Zhuo Fan set up an ancient first-grade concealing array at that moment. The cave disappeared from this place and not even a 6th-level spiritual beast would find it even if they passed through. The trio could finally heal in peace. Xueningsiang woke up 3 days later and was wild with joy knowing that they weren't dead. Then she wondered where those wolves went and why they didn't eat the trio. Xie Tianyang was unclear about this too, but Zhuo Fan frowned, finding it tied to the expert he met in his consciousness. It was in this manner the trio recouped for 3 months. Zhuo Fan was back to full health while Xie Tianyang could now exert 70% of his power. Xueningsiang recovered long ago and spent her time playing with the burrowing mouse. Both of them were happy seeing her smile again, thinking of her like a little sister. Xueningsiang too started to feel more dependent on the two. Whoosh! 100 meters away from the cave, Xie Tianyang hacked a rock as he smiled towards Xueningsiang not far away. He clearly recovered to 80%. Xueningsiang clapped excitedly alongside the burrowing mouse. Zhuo Fan walked over with a smile. Nice power you have there. You should enter the 8th layer of bone tempering stage soon. Didn't you also entered the 7th layer of qi condensation after your wounds healed? Xie Tianyang clipped. Besides, Zhuo Fan, how can your eyes be that good to detect me breaking through before I do? Xueningsiang waved her hand to placate them. Why are you always arguing when you meet each other? You weren't like this before. Isn't it his fault? Xie Tianyang stuck out his chest and cursed Zhuo Fan. After all this time, I still can't forgive this brat for using Ninga as bait. How can I not be pissed? What arguing? I'm itching to give him a beating. Pot calling the kettle black. Who was it that said to dump her and stall the 7th elder? Zhuo Fan countered. I never. Xie Tianyang was at a loss, but soon recovered his courage. I didn't know Ninga was so great, alright? Moreover, it's far better than being used as bait. I'm a demonic cultivator. It's normal to be more immoral than a righteous cultivator like you. Immoral? You're a bloody criminal by comparison. Seeing Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang quarreling over her, Xueningsiang gestured for them to stop. Come on, don't argue, it's all in the past. I don't care anymore, so why are you bringing it up? No, I want to give you justice. Xie Tianyang grabbed her shoulders while glaring at the smiling Zhuo Fan. It's all right. We are friends who braved through life and death together. It's water under the bridge. Xueningsiang showed a smile at the two and extended a pinky. Xie Tianyang smiled wryly and was hesitant in extending his pinky, but he did nonetheless. He was followed by an indifferent Zhuo Fan. The 3 pinkies touched and they started to feel warm and fuzzy inside. Finding a close friend in life was hard, but finding one to brave death alongside oneself was even harder. From now on, they would never abandon each other, no matter what. Zhuo Fan suspected he'd be hard-pressed to find any closer friends in this life as they took back their respective fingers. Zhuo Fan smiled. Now that we have recovered, we will each go our own way. Startled, the two didn't understand why he'd say this. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Sorry, that was my mistake. I want to leave. Xie Tianyang, I'm afraid I can't take her out of the city. Help her in my stead. Brother Zhuo, where are you going? Xueningsiang felt nervous. Zhuo Fan replied with a determined tone, the 3rd area. What? Xie Tianyang and Xueningsiang shouted. At first we wanted to avoid the 7th elder by going there, but why would you still want to go? Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed with guilt. To be honest, it was my objective from the start. I wanted to go together because you were useful. Bastard, you wanted more baits. Xie Tianyang cursed. Zhuo Fan nodded. Yes, so if you don't want to die, run along. The farther from me the better. As he replied, Zhuo Fan turned to leave. Wait. Xueningsiang pulled his hand with a shy smile. Brother Zhuo, if you don't consider me as a burden, take me with you. Even if I were to become bait, it is all right as long as I can stay with you. Zhuo Fan was startled and his heart throbbed. Xie Tianyang advised. Hey, Ninga, this guy's no good. But Xueningsiang's gentle eyes only had Zhuo Fan in them, and so Xie Tianyang also reluctantly chose to put his hands together with theirs. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. You two want to follow me? Yes. Xie Tianyang felt lifeless, but don't misunderstand, I'm not coming to help you but to make sure you don't betray Ninga. Zhuo Fan smiled. With how smart you are, I might go and betray you both. But he didn't voice it. Meeting the two of them could be considered as his fortune friends in life and death were hard to find. Chapter 69, Savage Clash. Chapter 69, Savage Clash. The forest in Allbeast Mountain Range's third area was so thick it blotted out the sun. It was also packed with vicious spiritual beasts that roared at any passing moment. It painted such a gruesome picture that struck terror in any who were intent in setting foot inside. Suddenly, a low bush stirred despite the lack of wind. Zhuo Fan's party stuck to the ground as they crawled, making use of the bushes as cover. They did take energy-concealing pills, but unlike the previous areas, if any spiritual beast saw them here, it spelled doom as such. This was the only viable way to advance, moving at a crawl 3,000 miles inland with each roar and cry, fear struck, soaking their brows with sweat blasted. We'll never get anywhere crawling like this. After half a day of wiggling through 10 miles, Xie Tianyang complained and sat with arms crossed. I'm not doing it anymore. It's too lame. Besides, you think a 5th-level spiritual beast lies at every corner? Fool, get down before it's too late. Zhuo Fan cursed. Xie Tianyang smirked in disdain. How will that help? With how tall the fauna is here, you think they'll spot us at a glance? Roar. In reply to his disdain, a reverberating roar deafened the trio. They turned to see 5 towering trees being pushed to the ground. A 50-meter-tall black bear appeared. Seeing its meal, the black bear roared with bared fangs and bloodthirsty eyes. 4th-level spiritual beast, Mad Storm Bear. Zhuo Fan cried as the trio shook in fear. Xie Tianyang was even rooted in place before the bear could jump on its prey, a tail thick as a bucket coiled around its body. The bear was squeezed and thrown into the heavens above as its pitiful cry grew faint. When it came back down, a maw opened wide and swallowed it whole. As the maw closed, blood sprayed in the surroundings, forming a pool beneath it. Even Zhuo Fan felt a shiver of fear. That was a 30-meter-long python with a scarlet crest and rock-hard scales. Its cold eyes flashed, on the prowl for the next meal. 5th-level spiritual beast, Diamond Crest Python. Run! Zhuo Fan yelled as he sped up his crawling, and the other two worked to catch up. Even Xie Tianyang disregarded his sorry state and crawled with them. He came face to face to the horrors of this area. One slip and he was a goner. It was plainly obvious why even a radiant stage expert would die here. When the Diamond Crest Python ate the bear, because of its bulk, it didn't notice the trio and left after its meal. Damn you, Zhuo Fan. I must have been insane for agreeing to come with you to this hell. Xie Tianyang worked his all not only to crawl but also to complain on and on, afraid he would soon lose his life. Without venting, he was on the verge of tears. He had heard this place was savage, but not to this extent. If he'd try to even stand taller than waist height, he'd soon find danger setting its sights on him. Zhuo Fan mocked. No one told you to come. Why don't you crawl your way back? Xie Tianyang was looking at the sky. Curses, the sun is setting. Nocturnal spiritual beasts will be on the hunt soon, and crawling won't work against them. I'll be dead in a second. Better stick to Zhuo Fan. He would set up an array and no spiritual beast would wander in. Annoyed, Xie Tianyang had an edge in his voice. Since I'm in the same boat as you, once I wander back it will be plain suicide. Zhuo Fan and Xue Ningxiang shook their heads. Then the trio's schedule was crawling by day and ducking under an array at night. And after a month they finally crawled through 3,000 miles till their limbs and waist went sore. The good news was that the closer they got, the fewer the spiritual beasts spotted. Zhuo Fan knew they entered the territory of those 6th-level spiritual beasts, where no weaker beast would dare step a paw in. In the third area, 6th-level spiritual beasts were kings. If they found some oblivious beastie wandering into their domain, they'd chase it even for 1,000 miles, all to preserve a king's dignity. Especially if humans were involved. Stretching and exhaling, Zhuo Fan felt a bit better. Despite his relaxed manner, Xie Tianyang had his eyes peeled as he cautiously rose to his feet. We can stand here? Zhuo Fan nodded with a smile. On our way here, there were too many eyes and ears on the lookout for any movement, so we crawled to avoid the spiritual beasts. Here though is the domain of 6th-level spiritual beasts. Hiding will be much more effective than crawling in this place. Xie Tianyang finally found safety for the first time in a month and smiled. So it's much safer here than other places? Zhuo Fan arched an eyebrow. You can say that, but we'll die even faster bumping into a 6th-level spiritual beast. Xie Tianyang's smile vanished and his tone held some bite. Then what the hell are we doing here? Tame them? How? Zhuo Fan smiled with confidence. He had considered this point a long time ago. He came to such a deadly place as the third area with a plan. He only needed to slip a bloodworm into the Thunder Skylark and all was well, but the problem was how Rumble. Zhuo Fan was cooking up a plan when a sudden noise shook the world. The trio felt the earth shaking beneath their feet. They blinked in shock. This had to be from another devastating clash of spiritual beasts. But throughout their crawling, never had they heard a sound so loud. Not even when 2 5th-level spiritual beasts fought, there could only be one answer. 6th-level spiritual beast. They shouted in unison. It seems to be coming from that direction. Zhuo Fan ran straight for it while Xie Tianyang yelled nervously, "Those beasts will tear you to pieces." Zhuo Fan smirked. If one of them was the Thunder Skylark, it'd be perfect. He'd lay in wait and make use of the perfect opportunity to strike. Xue Ningxiang remained quiet and followed him closely. Wherever Zhuo Fan went, she would be close by. So, Xie Tianyang had no choice but to join them. 15 minutes later, the trio heard a thunderclap in the sky and the roaring flames. The three huddled behind a large rock in a small valley and peeked above. But the sight took their breath away. 2 spiritual beasts flew high up, both 6th-level spiritual beasts. One was a deep blue-colored bird with a 15-meter-long body and a wingspan of 20 meters. Lightning traveled along its body as it cracked the air. Despite being smaller in size, even compared with a 5th-level spiritual beast, its every wing beat covered the sky in lightning and wind blades that struck the rocks in the valley to pieces. A 5th-level spiritual beast would be crushed by such display. Thunder Skylark. Zhuo Fan squinted. He didn't lie to me. Thunder Skylark's nest is here. He then turned to the other spiritual beast. It was a flying lion wreathed in scarlet flames. Its mane was on fire and it had 30-meter-long wings of flames, half as long as his body. A flap of its wings sent fire to engulf the skies and burn the whole valley to a crisp. 6th-level spiritual beast, Flaming Lion King. Zhuo Fan's heart tightened. The Flaming Lion King was as powerful as a 7th-level spiritual beast, putting the Thunder Skylark at a disadvantage. He had thought that if the Thunder Skylark was tangled with another 6th-level spiritual beast, he'd play the fisherman and make the bird swallow a bloodworm during the confusion. Pity that it was facing Flaming Lion King. The Thunder Skylark would likely be defeated and killed. But wouldn't that bore a large hole in his plans? No, I have to help it. But how? This savage battle is no different than a Radiant stage expert's fight. Getting involved will only get me killed. Boom. As Zhuo Fan was musing a plan, the two beasts clashed again. Flaming Lion King spat a fireball while Thunder Skylark sent a thunderstorm with a flap of its wings, intending to crush it. But then, Flaming Lion King rammed its huge body into the frail Thunder Skylark. The bird cried out and tumbled around in the air. Zhuo Fan secretly sighed. Sure enough, the Thunder Skylark was just as adept at using her attribute like the Flaming Lion King, but her body lacked power. In contrast, it would die if this went on. Big Brother Zhuo, can you help the poor birdie? Xue Ningxiang turned her puppy eyes to him. Zhuo Fan was this close to spewing blood. Birdie? Well, it does belong to the swallow type, but it's a spiritual beast nonetheless. Regardless, just how exactly is that thing small? But Xue Ningxiang's pleas echoed his thoughts. The Thunder Skylark must survive. Chapter 70, Divine Azure Flame. Chapter 70, Divine Azure Flame. Ninga, we can't just interfere in a battle of 6th-level spiritual beast. Xue Ningxiang felt regret the moment she spoke up. Over these few months, Xie Tianyang never refused any of her wishes, ignoring the fact that our strength is not nearly enough. Just from how fiercely these 6th-level spiritual beasts are clashing, one can tell it is not over food, but territory. You couldn't interfere even if they were people, not knowing who is wrong or right. We can't just risk our lives for them. Zhuo Fan lifted an eyebrow as he gave Xie Tianyang a deeper look. In the end, he comes from the 7 houses and knows what battles between great powers implies. If I didn't need the Thunder Skylark so badly, I wouldn't get involved either. But Xue Ningxiang's expression was filled with worry. But that birdie isn't fighting over territory, it's to protect her young. Zhuo Fan looked again and saw a nest below the Thunder Skylark holding 5 huge eggs. Flaming Lion King was powerful enough, but the Thunder Skylark's speed was astonishing. It could leave just like that if it wanted to, but the Lion King caught it between a rock and a hard place, battering it again and again until it was filled with wounds, all because it was worried about harming her eggs. Now that Zhuofan got the whole picture, he hatched a plan to help the Thunder Skylark. She is one big mother. Zhuofan sighed. Ninga, worry not. See how I get that birdie out of trouble. Xue Ningxiang became overjoyed while Xie Tianyang was skeptical. Hypocrite, since when were you so selfless? This guy has a callous heart and betrays his friends at a drop of the hat. Since when did he start sticking his head out for someone else, a savage beast no less? Oh, Xie Tianyang, how can you understand me? I am in fact a man with love in his heart. Wait for a bit, I will need your help soon. Screw you. If you have love, I'm a saint. Xie Tianyang retorted in derision, but then he said in shock, I got it. You want the Thunder Skylark? Zhuofan perked an eyebrow and nodded. Ha ha ha, you've started using your head more since teaming up with me. Curses. I almost got used by you, again. Xie Tianyang spat. If you want to get the Thunder Skylark, leave me out of it. Zhuofan shrugged, then gave Xue Ningxiang a long look. Xue Ningxiang nodded and showed her doe eyes as she shook Xie Tianyang's arm. Big brother Xie, go with big brother Zhuo. The birdie and her young are so pitiful. Xie Tianyang felt like crying. The birdie is pitiful. One flap from it will tear me apart. Why aren't you feeling sorry for me? Lacking any choice in the matter, Xie Tianyang nodded. He was still feeling guilty for what happened to Xue Ningxiang and would agree to any of her requests at his nod. Xue Ningxiang exploded into a sparkling smile and Zhuofan grinned at the side. Zhuofan, watch it. If you throw me away, I will make you pay. Xie Tianyang glared, but Zhuofan just shook his head. Take it easy. When I use someone, I make sure they won't ever get the chance to come back to bite me. What? Xie Tianyang exclaimed. Zhuofan just laughed and patted his shoulder. After warning Xue Ningxiang to hide and not get discovered, Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang sneaked towards the eggs. The two were able to sneak thanks to the energy-concealing pill. As the beasts raged, lightning and flames collided, rocking the valley like a boat. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang crept up cautiously below the raging storm. Each time the boom drew closer, it gripped their hearts in a vice and soaked their brows with sweat. One stray fireball or lightning could become the end for them both. Luckily enough, they reached the eggs without a scratch. Below the Thunder Skylark, it was both the most dangerous and safest place. What now? Xie Tianyang looked above at the flashing figures engaged in a fierce battle. Zhuofan explained his plan with a smile. While the Thunder Skylark isn't paying attention, we will hide the eggs. When it finds out that its eggs are gone, it will no longer fight and rush to search for its young. Since it is faster than the lion, we will thus save its life. Good plan. Xie Tianyang spoke in a low voice and gave him a thumbs up. Zhuofan then indicated to lift the nest together. While the heavens were swept by a storm, two bandits were making away with the entire nest from right under everyone's noses. Seeing this, Xue Ningxiang sported a wide smile. Suddenly, Flaming Lion King gained altitude, breaking away from the bird while the Thunder Skylark kept a closer eye on its movements. As Zhuofan was carrying the nest, he found that the shadows on the ground were much bigger and that the sky had turned silent. Startled, he stopped and looked up. He was met with the large eyes of the Flaming Lion King. He also noticed that the lion's eyes were ridiculing him. Zhuofan shouted in panic, "That savage found us, run." But the eggs? Xie Tianyang was nervous. What eggs? Just throw them. Ignoring Xie Tianyang, Zhuofan tossed the nest and the 5 eggs to the ground. Since they were spiritual beast eggs, they wouldn't break so easily. Startled by Zhuofan's yell, the Thunder Skylark looked in time to see her 5 young thrown on the ground and rushed in anger. Boom. Then, a ball of fire passed close to the Thunder Skylark. The Flaming Lion King wasn't aiming for it, but the 5 eggs. With a cry, the Thunder Skylark flew like lightning and used her body to block the fireball. Zhuofan let out a mental sigh. Not for Thunder Skylark's sacrifice, but the lion's cunningness. It knew that the Thunder Skylark was fast as lightning, which proved it difficult to land a heavy blow. But those eggs couldn't move and were the perfect means to cripple the Thunder Skylark's speed. Attacking what one defended was the best plan. The Flaming Lion King laughed in glee and spat another ball of flame. Thunder Skylark used her lightning to stop it, but, with the eggs scattered, another ball of fire was closing in on another egg. Thus she was forced to fly all over to defend them. The Flaming Lion King, which was hovering above, roared and sneered, "We made it worse. We hastened the Thunder Skylark's end. Darting back to Xuaningxiang, Zhuofan sighed. Despite not liking it, he spoke with determination, "Let's go. If we wait for Thunder Skylark to die, the crazy lion will come after us." Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang grabbed Xuaningxiang's arm, but she stood rooted to the spot, watching the Thunder Skylark darting to and fro as tears fell down her cheeks. Zhuofan sighed. He had no way to help the bird now. "Let it go, Ninga. We need to leave." Zhuofan furrowed his brows and urged, but Xuaningxiang shook her head. Boom. After fending off 24 fireballs, the Thunder Skylark let out a mournful cry and fell tired and wounded in a large crater. The flaming Lion King charged with its claw, aiming for the bird's throat. No. Xuaningxiang broke away from the two's grasp and rushed to defend the Thunder Skylark. The cold wind from flaming Lion King's attack fanned her fine black hair. But her eyes remained unwavering. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang rushed over. Alarmed, both forgot that they would soon be 2 more corpses added to the pile, that it wouldn't make a difference. Even Zhuofan lost his calculative mind. The 3 only knew to not abandon the other. "Ninga, I will accompany you in death." Xie Tianyang roared as he threw himself in front of her. Zhuofan flashed in front of the 2, but his eyes were fixed on the flaming Lion King. He was the demonic emperor. Even in death, he would stare down his enemy. "Dumb humans, your flesh won't stop this king's claw." The flaming Lion King opened its mouth and sneered. As its claw drew close, its killing intent made the trio shiver. But just when the claw was about to touch Zhuofan's face, an azure flame came out of Zhuofan's forehead and a shocking power shrouded the entire all-beast mountain range. The spiritual beasts were left shivering and lowered their proud heads. Even those fighting bent their knees. Flaming Lion King stopped its claw and watched the swaying flame as it trembled in fear. Chapter 71, Got an Egg. Chapter 71, Got an Egg. The azure flame was as small as a candle's, flickering in the wind in front of Zhuofan's forehead. But with each sway, the flaming Lion King's eyes shivered, as if it saw its end. It then took back its claw and sped away in the form of a ball of fire. It scampered off with speed rather than dignity, so much so that it was even close to falling at some point. A 6th-level spiritual beast, a king in the all-beast mountain range, was now fleeing like a kitty while trembling from every joint. Frowning, Zhuofan touched his forehead, but the azure flame had already hidden inside. He only felt a faint warmth and concluded that it was connected to the expert who had appeared in his consciousness and touched him there. "Hey, Zhuofan," Xie Tianyang shook his arm as he questioned, Be honest with me. Are you absolutely positive that you are human?" "Cut the crap. What else would I be, a demon?" Zhuofan slapped Xie Tianyang's hand away. "I've never seen a human scare a 6th-level spiritual beast with just a look." Xie Tianyang took deep breaths to calm down and continued, "Did you see how scared it was when it saw you? As if afraid you would eat it whole. As brothers, you owe me an explanation. How many secrets are you hiding?" Zhuofan rolled his eyes, then turned to Xuaningxiang. "We were never brothers." Xie Tianyang froze, then he showed an awkward smile. But he was becoming more and more curious about Zhuofan. Coming next to Xuaningxiang, they saw her tear-stained face as she looked at the Thunder Skylark. The lion didn't take its life, but the birdie was too far gone to be saved. Unlike Xie Tianyang, she ignored the fleeing flaming Lion King and inspected the birdie's wounds. "It won't make it." Zhuofan sent his Yuan Qi to check its state, then sighed. His plan on getting a Thunder Skylark went up in smoke. "Big brother Zhuo, can you help her?" Xuaningxiang looked at him with teary eyes, but he could only sigh. As a demonic emperor, he had plenty of ways, but the current him was weak. Xuaningxiang began crying her heart out, tears falling down the Thunder Skylark's face. The bird opened its eyes and looked elsewhere. Xuaningxiang noticed and spotted an egg not too far. But the egg was burnt black. The Thunder Skylark gave its all before but was incapable of stopping every fireball it wants her young. "Let's go find them." Xuaningxiang cried. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang searched around and soon gathered 4 scorched and lifeless eggs. "Wasn't there one more?" Xuaningxiang nervously asked. The 2 shook their heads. "The last one was lost. They couldn't find it anywhere." Xuaningxiang was sorrowful, kneeling before the Thunder Skylark as she sobbed, "Forgive us, we are the ones who hurt you." The Thunder Skylark was always watching the 4 scorched eggs with teary eyes. Then, her eyes flashed and moved her great body from below her. The last egg rolled out. It was intact but still had a few scorch marks on it. Zhuofan looked long at the Thunder Skylark and secretly nodded. Despite being forced to run around by the flaming Lion King, it knew what it had to do. It made sure to protect one egg without anyone knowing, and when it collapsed, It used its body to hide the egg. So that even if it was killed, the egg would survive. It gave its life to protect its young. Thinking about this, Zhuofan developed a deep respect for the bird. With a cry, the thunder skylark stared at Zhuofan, or, more specifically, his forehead. Then it turned to its egg with a hopeful gaze. You want me to take it? Zhuofan assumed it nodded, eyes filled with warmth for the egg. Zhuofan picked it up and sighed. It is badly burnt and, even if it hatches, it won't live for long. Unless. He whispered the rest into the thunder skylark's ear. It was first startled, then nodded in gratitude. Turning to her young, the thunder skylark closed her eyes in peace. She could now rest easy knowing Zhuofan would look after it. Xuaningxiang saw its life fade away and was crying her heart out. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang sighed. They didn't foresee her being so compassionate even towards a spiritual beast. They would, at most, hold some respect, but never be so heartbroken about it. Ninga, it won't come back. Don't feel too sad about it. Zhuofan consoled. Yeah, I never knew you'd be so compassionate towards this thunder skylark just after meeting it once. Xie Tianyang laughed dryly and scratched his head, not knowing how to comfort the girl. Xuaningxiang wiped her tears and nose. Why, you guys misunderstood. It is a sad birdie, but I'm not crying for it. I was reminded of my home. Her appearance made me recall my dad protecting me every step of the way, taking care of me. The other two smiled dejectedly. It seems this girl was reminiscing. No wonder she was so touched. Since it's not for the bird, then I will take the thunder skylark's body. Zhuofan felt awkward as he stashed the body in his ring, but Xuaningxiang just nodded. Xie Tianyang, however, was aflame in anger. Hey, why do you get to have a whole 6th-level spiritual beast's body? A spiritual beast was a treasure in and of itself. The 6th-level spiritual beast bodies, in particular, made for great refining materials. Even the 7 houses seldom got such an item, and Xie Tianyang regarded it greatly. Looking askance at him, Zhuofan stated, You saw it giving me its egg. Its body is the same. You stay here with Ninga, I'll be right back. He left before Xie Tianyang could argue. Xie Tianyang wanted to follow Zhuofan, but seeing Ninga, he stayed. He was worried for her safety. Leaving her all alone in the woods was not wise. Though it made little difference if he was there too. Whoosh. In a secluded spot, Zhuofan took out the egg, the thunder skylark's body, and some black rocks. He began circulating his yuan qi and his hand burned scarlet. This was a cultivator's most basic yuan qi flame. Weak in battle, but useful in refining. And those black rocks were spatial stones used in making storage rings. These rocks were very rare even with all the spatial rock mines in control of the 7 houses and the imperial family. But thanks to Veiled Dragon Pavilion and imperial family endorsing the Luo clan, he got his hand on a few, and right now, he was planning on refining a beast holding ring. It was far more complex to refine than a storage ring, and the great sects had a tight lock on any refining methods regarding them. Furthermore, it could even store spiritual energy, as spiritual beasts were nurtured by the spiritual energy of the world. They were the best ingredient for refining items. Case in point, this egg came from the thunder skylark, and its spiritual energy would help it recover. If not for this, Zhuofan was unsure if he could even hatch it. Now that the thunder skylark was dead, he desperately needed to hatch the egg and make it his demonic creature in order to enter the lightning canyon. For this, Zhuofan spoke a few words to the dying thunder skylark. And it agreed once it knew its broken body could help her young live. Either way, this was Zhuofan's way of showing his respect for the mother. Also, he would have taken this course of action regardless of her decision. Zhuofan pointed and the flame towered, fusing the ingredients with high-speed hand signs and a smile of satisfaction. He was close to fulfilling his objective in the dead of night. Stars glittered with Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang watching them, bored out of their mind. As this was Thunder Skylark's territory, no 6th-level spiritual beast would wander here. It was the safest place for them. A sound broke the silence and Zhuofan appeared next to them. Xuaningxiang ran to him in glee as Xie Tianyang looked him up and down. What did you do with the corpse? Shrugging, Zhuofan was blunt, tore it in 8 and used it. Xuaningxiang was startled by his reply and Xie Tianyang rushed to placate her. Ninga, it's all right. The bodies of spiritual beasts are handled like this. But I don't know what he refined using it. Xie Tianyang knew Zhuofan was an array master and an alchemist, so being a refiner on top wasn't that far-fetched. As Zhuofan was gone for a day, he assumed Zhuofan had refined something. Hey, did you know today is Ninga's 16th birthday? She was reminded of her family when the thunder skylark protected her egg and it made her cry. Zhuo Fan took a long look at Xuaningxiang, who was blushing with a lowered head. Ha ha ha, since it's her birthday, then I will give her a present. Zhuo Fan revealed a ring that had lightning running across it. Then he took Xuaningxiang's hand and inserted the ring on her finger. This is the storage ring I refined from the thunder skylark, thunder ring. I have one and you the other. They both are made as one, and are connected with each other. Zhuo Fan raised his hand and sparks flashed across his ring. Xuaningxiang was overjoyed inside and blushed as she extended her fist with the ring on it. Zhuo Fan did the same with his hand and the two rings let out crackling sounds. Xie Tianyang was filled with envy and roared, Zhuo Fan, gee, give me one too. I'm out. Zhuo Fan deadpanned, is it your damn birthday too? No, but you have to give me one. Or, the two of you, a pair of rings. Xie Tianyang's face burned hot. He no longer cared about the value of the thunder ring, but that Zhuo Fan and Xuaningxiang wore a unique pair of rings. Seeing through him, Zhuo Fan sighed inwardly, we've been through thick and thin together, so of course, I have one for you. Zhuo Fan then tossed him a ring. Xie Tianyang put it on in glee, then made a fist bump with Xuaningxiang. Each of them got a thunder ring which would only react when another was around. Zhuo Fan spoke seriously, what gift did you give Ninga? Xie Tianyang started and scratched his head from having nothing of value on him. Suddenly, he turned to the burrowing mouse and pointed, Ninga likes playing with it, so I'm giving it to her. Get lost, it has long stopped being yours. Zhuo Fan jabbed. Xie Tianyang snapped in anger, isn't it all you're doing? The two began quarreling while Xuaningxiang stood content at the side with a smile. Absent-mindedly looking at the thunder ring, she wished the time would stop so that the three of them would stay worry-free after a long night. They began their trek back first thing in the morning, but 10,000 miles out, a huge bird had its eye on each and every movement of theirs. Blue flames wreathed its body and with every flap of its wings, it flew deeper into the All-Beast mountain range. Chapter 72, Shui Clan Patriarch. Chapter 72, Shui Clan Patriarch. The trio returned to the second area using the same method as before. Then they soon arrived at the first area with the first step into safety. Their hearts started easing up. Their thunder rings flashed with lightning from how close they were. All that's left is to leave Blue Expanse City and we'll be safe. Zhuo Fan looked in the city's direction with a smile. Although he didn't obtain the thunder skylark, he earned much more, its egg and two dear friends in life and death moments. Xuaningxiang however was frowning, worry plaguing her heart. But we offended the seventh elder. Won't he set a trap for us? Unlikely. Zhuo Fan stated, he must have spared our lives because another greater danger was looming overhead, forcing him to flee. He must be thinking we've died at the hands of that scary thing. Thing? What thing? Xie Tianyang asked. Zhuo Fan only shook his head. He was out like a light at that time and was unclear what happened. But when he woke up he saw the destruction around him and came to this conclusion. As for why they were luckily spared, ask heaven. In any case, sneaking out of the city is easy. Zhuo Fan smiled, Ninga, what will you do after we leave? I don't know. Xuaningxiang turned gloomy, but then she looked up at Zhuo Fan, Big brother Zhuo, I'll just go with you. Zhuo Fan started while Xie Tianyang became flustered and said, Ninga, how about you come with me, to Sword Marquis's abode? Not only will your clansmen not come for you, but even Hell Valley's people wouldn't be able to take you from us. Xuaningxiang happily nodded, all right. Big brother Zhuo, why don't you also come? I've never seen the strong 7 noble houses of the Tianyu Empire. Xie Tianyang wasn't too pleased about it, but since Ninga was happy he also relented. Zhuo Fan, for Ninga, I will extend an invitation to visit my house as a guest. Zhuo Fan looked at them for a moment and shook his head, I cannot. I have other places to be. If fortune smiles, we will see each other again. The two were startled and hesitant about parting, though Xie Tianyang and Zhuo Fan were like fire and water, arguing every day. They went through hell together and came out as brothers. Hey, I truly welcome you to my house. Think of your brother, me, and come. Zhuo Fan snickered, I already said, we aren't brothers. Sigh, how can you? As Xie Tianyang was about to laugh it off, a crack was heard and a sudden pressure pushed down on them. No one is allowed to leave. Whoosh. A black figure appeared with long black and white hair. His long goatee fluttered in the wind, and his eyes flashed as they landed on the trio profound heaven expert. Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang were startled and protected Xueningsiang with their bodies. Is it an elder from Hell Valley? I've never seen him. Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang whispered. What was certain though, this old man wanted to wring them dry, but then, Xueningsiang jumped out from between them and walked cautiously towards the man. Grandfather. Xie Tianyang was stumped while Zhuo Fan asked with a frown, Your Shui clan's only profound heaven expert, Shui clan's patriarch, Shui Dingtian? Turning a blind eye to the rotten kids in front, Shui Dingtian looked over Xueningsiang. Ninga, where did you run off these months? I looked all over for you. Xueningsiang hung her head in guilt and mumbled, Sorry for worrying you, grandfather. Shui Dingtian sighed and tousled his dear grandchild's hair, then spat, Did any of these runts misbehave? Xueningsiang knew where this was going and was embarrassed. Grandpa, what are you saying? Humph, then all is good. Shui Dingtian rolled his eyes over Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang. Who was it that hurt my grandson, Shui Gang? Him. Xie Tianyang didn't miss a beat in exposing Zhuo Fan. I only met Ninga after. I never saw your grandson. Rolling his eyes, Zhuo Fan could only blame his poor luck in friends. I didn't know he was Ninga's brother, so, please forgive the offense, senior. Then, you eloped with Ninga? Shui Dingtian questioned Zhuo Fan. What, elope? Xie Tianyang cried with a start and grabbed Zhuo Fan by the clothes. Zhuo Fan, explain it to me. Since when were you so close with Ninga? Shui Dingtian glanced at Xie Tianyang and turned towards his granddaughter. Who is that kid, to be even more pissed than me? Xueningsiang glared at her grandpa, then hid her flaming cheeks with her hands. Grandpa is getting old, how could he mention something like that out of the blue? She was complaining inside, but her eyes sneaked a peek at Zhuo Fan. Wait, don't misunderstand. I only asked Ninga to show me the way and nothing else. Zhuo Fan gesticulated while shouting. Only then did Xie Tianyang stop. Shui Dingtian stared down Zhuo Fan, but seeing no lies, he spoke. Good, in that case, I won't be hard on you on account on your time with my granddaughter. Come, Ninga, let's go home. Shui Dingtian pulled her. But Xueningsiang turned to the two behind her. Xie Tianyang was getting anxious, wanting to stop them. Wait. Zhuo Fan shouted. Shui Dingtian spoke in a cold tone. Is there something else, runt? You can't take Ninga, said Zhuo Fan with a stony expression, and I advise you don't return either. Shui Dingtian frowned. What do you mean by that? I'll be frank. We offended the seventh elder of Hell Valley and he recognized Ninga. I can guess he's now getting rowdy in the Shui clan. If you go back now, you will die. Shui Dingtian was startled, then looked to see Xueningsiang nodding shyly as if thunderstruck. Shui Dingtian trembled and stumbled backward before falling. Xueningsiang started crying and rushed to her grandpa. Grandfather, forgive me. Shui Dingtian tightened his fist as rage swallowed his heart. Then his killing intent-filled eyes landed on Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang. It's you who brought this disaster upon us. As long as I take you to the seventh elder, he will spare us. Saying so, he slapped towards Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan's foot moved a bit, making two of his phantoms appear near him. Then they immediately retreated in different directions. Shui Dingtian scattered the three retreating figures to dust with a wave of his hand, but the real one wasn't among them. The next moment, Zhuo Fan came from behind Shui Dingtian and attacked with a bloody hand blood paw. Startled, Shui Dingtian felt his blood vessels boil. He now felt it on his own skin why his son and grandson had lost. Zhuo Fan wasn't only strong enough to skip stages, but also cunning and hard to fathom. Too bad he wasn't in the profound heaven stage like the old man. Shui Dingtian vanished before the blood palm could hit him, shocking Zhuo Fan at the same instant. A powerful strike came from behind, and Zhuo Fan, who was unable to dodge in time, spat blood while flying. Shui Dingtian was about to pursue when a mystical sword intent came at him. It was Xie Tianyang wielding his star sword to strike Shui Dingtian's chest. As he looked at the approaching sword, the sky seemed to have calmed and he could only see the glittering sword moving. Profound ranked martial art? Shui Dingtian moved his foot slightly and disappeared, only to attack from Xie Tianyang's side with a palm. Xie Tianyang spattered blood and flew due to the impact. It was thanks to his spiritual armor that he wasn't heavily wounded. Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang staggered to their feet. A profound heaven expert's power wasn't to be taken lightly. Without an array, they had no chance. That brief exchange from before lasted but a breath and the outcome was a foregone conclusion. The two couldn't even touch a profound heaven expert. Chapter 73, Cauldron. Chapter 73, Cauldron. Stop, cried Xue Ningxiang. Xue Dingtian turned towards his granddaughter and was startled to see her in tears with a dagger at her neck. What are you doing, Ninga? Xue Dingtian became nervous. Xue Ningxiang spoke between sobs. Grandpa, let them go, they're my friends. If I do, then our Xue clan will be no more. Xue Dingtian stepped towards Zhuo Fan with hatred and killing intent. Grandpa, take one more step and I will be leaving this world before you. Xue Ningxiang nervously pushed the dagger closer to her throat. Blood began to trace the blade. Don't. Xie Tianyang was frightened, but Xue Dingtian gnashed his teeth and pressed on. However, Zhuo Fan noticed the tears in the old man's eyes. Zhuo Fan laughed. Ha ha ha, Xue Dingtian, you've gotten senile. You think taking us to the seventh elder will save Xue clan? It will only hasten your downfall. What are you saying? Xue Dingtian stopped and stared at Zhuo Fan, sneering. Zhuo Fan turned to Xie Tianyang. Do you know who this is? He's from Sword Marquis' abode. By handing him over to the Hell Valley, you will make one of the 7 houses into your enemy. Do you think you can handle their wrath and prevent the downfall of your second-rate clan? Xue Dingtian became apprehensive. He spoke while scrutinizing Xie Tianyang. Impossible, you are trying to play me. I would have known by now if someone from Sword Marquis' abode came to Blue Expanse City. 7 noble houses' disciples wander the world, so why should they report to you? Clear those muddy eyes of yours and take a closer look at his spiritual weapon, his martial art. Are they common? Even in the 7 houses, such a masterful disciple is rare. A chill shook his very core and Xue Dingtian staggered back a few steps. He knew that was a 4th-grade spiritual weapon and the kid was using a profound ranked martial art. Who could wield both if not a man from the 7 houses? Having Xue Dingtian right where he wanted, Zhuo Fan drove in the last nail with a sneer. You want to take us back to Hell Valley when it's uncertain if they'll even accept us. But if they do, will the Sword Marquis' abode just let you go? Plop. Xue Dingtian lost all his nerve and collapsed in a shivering mess. The Xue clan was under Hell Valley, but never would they think to step between the conflicts of the 7 houses. If it ever happened, the Hell Valley would toss them in front as cannon fodder. Xue Dingtian began to feel mournful and lost. This year is a disaster for Xue clan. Do we have no other choice but to die at the hands of one of the 7 houses? He could take these runts with him, but he wouldn't want them now even if they landed in his lap. Why, young masters, forgive this old man's rash behavior. I was blind to young master's identity. Xue Dingtian squeezed through clenched teeth and crouched before them to kowtow 3 times. Everyone was dumbfounded, while Zhuo Fan just took it all in with a critical eye. Xie Tianyang couldn't quite accept it and rushed over. Forgetting the fact he was Ninga's grandfather, just being an aged profound heaven expert was enough to make Xie Tianyang unable to receive such a gesture. Would the profound heaven experts, elders in title, back at Sword Marquis' abode had to kneel too? But Zhuo Fan's hand barred his way. If you want to save Ninga, show off your status. Zhuo Fan whispered, to which Xie Tianyang nodded with a bit of startle. Grandfather, get up. Xue Ningxiang had never seen her grandfather so humiliated and rushed to help him up. But then Zhuo Fan yelled, who told you to get up? Xue Dingtian shivered and was back on his knees with a red face. Xue Ningxiang was angry, but Xue Dingtian pulled her back. Zhuo Fan strutted before the old man and said in a clipped tone, do you know of our young master's eminent identity in the house? You hurt him today and us, the Sword Marquis' abode, will not let this go unpunished. Yes, I was ignorant in my offense. Xue Dingtian hung his head, which was already full of cold sweat. Humph. Then we will take Ninga. If you want to get her back, have the Xue clan or Hell Valley come for her at Sword Marquis' abode. Wait. Zhuo Fan was about to leave when Xue Dingtian grabbed his ankle. It doesn't matter if Ninga offended the 7th elder, but she cannot leave. Or the Xue clan will be dead for good. I cannot accept it even if it means offending Sword Marquis' abode's young masters. Frowning, Zhuo Fan eyed him thoughtfully and saw the staunch resolve in his eyes. Maybe. Ninga. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed with killing intent. He snatched Xie Tianyang's star sword and stabbed at the old man's chest. No. Xue Ningxiang panicked and threw herself before Xue Dingtian, stopping Zhuo Fan's attack just in time. Damnable and crazy punk. Xie Tianyang came to and took his sword. I thought you were just scaring the old man, not being serious. He is Ninga's grandfather. Zhuo Fan spoke coldly. If you were to choose who dies, who will you pick among the two? Of course it's. Xie Tianyang hesitated as he got caught in a dilemma. Xue Ningxiang didn't understand what was going on between her grandfather and Zhuo Fan. Xue Dingtian, what do you need Ninga for? Zhuo Fan spoke harshly. Xue Dingtian sighed, I know that young masters like my granddaughter, but she is already betrothed to Hell Valley's young master. When she is 16 years of age, I will have to take her to them. Because of this, she has tried to run from home so many times. With how the time is nearing its end, if I don't take her, our whole clan will perish. Xie Tianyang asked, Ninga, is this why you ran away? Xue Ningxiang nodded sadly. Zhuo Fan watched Xue Dingtian's wrinkled face for any lies but found none, so even you do not know for sure. If it's marriage then it's fine, but what? Xie Tianyang snapped, Ninga can't marry some random guy from Hell Valley. Come, follow brother to Sword Marquis's abode. Xue Tianyang, this marriage is fake. Zhuo Fan shot him a glance then spoke to Xue Dingtian, if it was about Hell Valley's marriage they would have come for her ages ago. But have you seen any girl getting married off to them coming back alive? Xue Dingtian pondered then shook his head, Hell Valley is one of the 7 houses, with proper rules and manners. Marrying with our second-rate clan already deserves heartfelt gratitude. What other reason can there be? She is ready to be wed to someone, and it's no longer our place to ask. Ha ha ha, that's exactly what they want. Zhuo Fan cackled, if I were to tell you that all the girls who got married to the Hell Valley's people died, what will you do? Will you still let Ninga go? What? Impossible. Xue Dingtian refuted, why would they do that? We've always been loyal to them. It is because you are so devoted that they chose you to raise a cauldron. Zhuo Fan declared. Everyone asked in shock, what cauldron? Zhuo Fan answered calmly, there are some demonic cultivators who train in a cultivation method that utilizes ghosts of the people dying gruesome deaths. But too heavy grievance would lead to an imbalance in the yin and yang, this would increase the risk of oneself getting devoured by the ghosts. Therefore, the purest soul is needed as a foundation to train in it. And 16-year-old maidens are the best materials. You're saying they want Ninga to train some art? Xie Tianyang looked at Xue Ningxiang with worry. Zhuo Fan nodded, most likely. Do you remember the 7th Elder's martial art? That profound ranked martial art wasn't trained to completion and was weak because the cauldron was lacking. You think he'd go easy on us on purpose? They all gasped at the cruelty of Hell Valley, which was using people as materials to practice arts, but Zhuo Fan couldn't care less. Demonic cultivators were selfish, not cruel or humane. Anything that killed one's opponent was most welcomed. He recalled that one time back in the sacred domain when an emperor stage expert cultivated this demonic method and killed 10,000 cultivators, the expert provoked the entire sacred domain's cultivators into an uprising against him. Even demonic cultivators rose the flag of righteousness, vowing to wipe such filth from the world. That was one of the rare occasions in which the two paths joined. Luck had it that Zhuo Fan was among them, witnessing this force on the move. He learned then not to incur public hatred if he wasn't the strongest. That was also why he trained in the dark after getting the 9 Serenities secret records. Even now, despite having the demon transformation art, which could raise his cultivation without a limit, he wasn't slaughtering left and right. If he'd get found out, he'd be the next target of both paths. Chapter 74, Flowing Metal Body Refining. Chapter 74, Flowing Metal Body Refining. The silence was deafening. It was so quiet that only cawing was heard. And even this noise only worked to darken the mood. Ninga. Xue Dingtian turned serious as he said, if what this young master said is true, it's best if you leave. Grandfather. Xue Ningxiang looked at him in tears. Xue Dingtian smiled, don't worry, I'll go back and find out the truth. If it isn't like what this young master said, then I will come back to get you and proceed with the marriage. He ruffled her hair and flew away watching his departing figure. Xue Ningxiang sniffed in tears. Big brother Zhuo, will my grandfather be alright? Zhuo Fan's conjectures were always spot on and Xue Ningxiang wished to know her grandfather's fate. She wanted him to say her grandfather would be fine, that her clan would be fine. But Zhuo Fan shook his head. I'm sorry, if he doesn't return, your clan still might live for a while. But now, all of them will die. Xue Ningxiang was shocked to the core and tears never stopped falling. Xie Tianyang began cursing to hide his sadness. Hey, You're not that damn insidious demon's match in reading people, so how can you say they'll all die if he returns? I think a profound heaven expert would make the insidious demon think twice. Humph, that is where you're wrong. I may not be as sharp as him when it comes to picking up one's intentions, but we are all humans, and I can tell a thing or two of his actions. First, we offended him, and since he determined the identity of Xue Ningxiang during our fight, he would think that the Xue clan betrayed Hell Valley. He is bound to kill them to the last woman and child. But at that time, old man Xue came to find Ninga. In this case, Zhuo Fan paused then sighed, until he knew the whereabouts of the profound heaven expert, he would keep them alive to draw your grandfather. Once old man Xue returns, there will be nothing holding him back. Bullshit. A profound heaven expert is an elder in the 7 houses. I don't believe he has such nerve to slaughter a profound heaven expert's entire clan. Xie Tianyang saw Xue Ningxiang's expression turn darker and roared at Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Exactly because Xue clan has a profound heaven expert, he would wait for Xue Dingtian to return before wiping them all off. In addition, you're wrong about something. A profound heaven expert is not strong at all, but a free one is. Why do you think he kneeled before us? He didn't do it for the 2 of us, but for the sword marquise abode behind you. He didn't kneel for himself either, but for the Xue clan. If he were a rogue cultivator, free of responsibility, killing us would be a matter of fact. But, Xie Tianyang wanted to retort but found nothing to refute him with. He knew of this all too well, but the sorrowful look on Xue Ningxiang pushed him to find her some solace. But Zhuo Fan's words stabbed Xue Ningxiang's frail heart like a dagger at this point. Xie Tianyang wanted to punch him. All right, stop fighting. Xue Ningxiang shouted, Big brother Zhuo, I know what you said is reasonable. Tell me then, if I go back as a cauldron, can I save my clan? Xie Tianyang was appalled. Ninga, don't. Zhuo Fan looked her in the eye, but all he saw was an unwavering will and nodded. Even the magnificent and grand 7th elder of Hell Valley has no other way to train in that martial art. From this, it is obvious how much the Hell Valley lacks cauldrons. Doing this is likely to work, but there is no but as long as it works. Xue Ningxiang waved and breathed out as if to get out all the worries off her chest. She was smiling, but the 2 felt their hearts heavy from the tears flowing down Xue Ningxiang's cheeks. Big brother Zhuo, big brother Tianyang, thank you for taking care of me these past months. We shall part ways, just that, Xue Ningxiang sniffed. I've never once gone outside the city, never seen Sword Marquise abode. It's my only regret. She waved with a smile and left. Xie Tianyang's eyes were tinted red. They both knew what this girl was about to do. Ninga. Xie Tianyang stepped forward, but Xue Ningxiang's delicate voice reached them before he could take a second. Please don't try to use force. I know I am not your match, but I will hate you for all my life and will never listen to you 2 again. Xie Tianyang fell to his knees and watched her distancing figure in pain. Hey, Zhuo Fan, Ninga left. Can she save Xue clan? He asked gloomily for some time. Zhuo Fan shook his head, his face serene. Once Ninga's use as cauldron expires, Xue clan would have outlived its usefulness. Why did you let her leave then? Xie Tianyang bit his lip until he drew blood as his words were spoken with an edge. Zhuo Fan stared him in the eye. At least, Ninga will leave this world at peace, believing her clan will be kept safe. Bastard. Bam. Xie Tianyang stood up and punched Zhuo Fan's face and sent him 10 meters flying. You betrayed Ninga again. Roaring, Xie Tianyang rushed after Xue Ningxiang. What are you going to do? Zhuo Fan wiped the blood from his mouth and stood up. I'm going to save her. Xie Tianyang was dead serious. Just you? Zhuo Fan jabbed. How can a bone-tempering cultivator fight against a profound heaven expert? You saw what happened just now. You know the difference between the bone-tempering stage and profound heaven stage. It's not just about being unable to fly but also about speed. So what? Tightening his fists, Xie Tianyang spat. It's better than doing nothing like you. We clearly had the chance to end that insidious demon last time. Last time we had the element of surprise and an array in place. In an array, no matter how fast he is, we can deal with him. But how will I set an array now? Are you telling me to set one right under his nose, then ask him to kindly step inside? Xie Tianyang understood the meaning behind Zhuo Fan's words but couldn't accept his manner. Ninga fought through life and death with them, and now Zhuofan was just going to sit there and do nothing. Zhuofan, I always knew there was no worth in trusting you. But as a man, good or bad, they are duty-bound to fulfill their promise. You promised to take Ninga out, and if you don't, you'll be nothing more than a coward. Roaring, Xie Tianyang sped up in his rush. If you go, you can only watch, powerless to do anything. I will still go. I would rather die than be a coward. Watching Xie Tianyang chasing Ninga, Zhuofan tightened his fists and muttered, "Who said I'm any different?" Then he turned around and entered the forest. Indiana, a cave. 15 minutes later, Zhuofan set up a concealing array, then drew an odd pattern on the ground and placed spirit stones at key locations. Then he spread diamond sand across the entire pattern. Finally, his hand flashed and a pair of wings with streaks of lightning across them appeared in the center of this pattern. This was a secret body refining art from the 9 Serenities secret records. It would make use of demon transformation art to refine the ingredients and transform one's flesh into diamond body. This was far crueler than the wraith art he gave to Captain Pang. Wraith art was a cultivation method for humans to refine their body, but this secret art treated the human body as a medium in refining it, just like a demonic treasure. The results were outstanding, of course, invincible and tough as steel. But the process was excruciating, 1,000 times more miserable than the wraith art. To imagine, this process involved cutting one's body inch by painful inch if one wanted to refine his body with ingredients suited for demonic treasures. It was so dreadful that one would find death a blessing in the past. Before he even found the 9 Serenities secret records, Zhuofan wouldn't train in wraith art even if he had it. Because it was too inhuman, too brutal, despite how much strength it gave back. And here he was using a method even more excruciating and dangerous, but this was also the only way he could improve his strength in a short time. If he wasn't stronger than that cunning and deceitful insidious demon, his success wasn't certain. With his heart at peace, his eyes filled with resolve, Zhuofan made a hand sign. In an instant, the strange pattern shined brightly and started to churn. As it spun, the diamond sand trickled towards a small vortex in the center and entered inside the cross-legged body of Zhuofan. Chapter 75, Spirit and Body Refining. Chapter 75, Spirit and Body Refining. Speck by diamond speck sunk into Zhuofan's body as the array turned. The sand acted like minute needles, boring through his muscles and drawing blood. All diamond sand that touched him pierced his body, with no exception. 1 or 2 specks he could bear, but 100, 1,000, they were beginning to take its toll on him, and all this while he could only gnash his teeth. When the number reached millions, his whole body was soaked in blood. And this blood all came from pin-sized holes left behind by the diamond speck, akin to a very fine sieve. Looking closely, the diamond sand had ruined his muscles, turning them to mush, and this was only the beginning. Yet the pain was so excruciating, worse than any torture, death by 1,000 cuts. Quite literally, however, to speed up his increase in power, Zhuofan still bore through it with clenched teeth, unwilling to utter even a grunt. Fine sweat ran over his body, testament to the pain. Even the mighty demonic emperor was reduced to a shivering mess. Then, Zhuofan's eyes narrowed as he cried out, unable to endure another million specks piercing his skin and muscles. He yelled and howled from the pain, but knew he had to stop and soon closed his mouth shut. In his heart he knew, this body refining method would remake his entire body, from the inside out, replacing his all with diamond sand. So much so he would become an unbreakable diamond, but before that, he would have to endure this agony. Yet this was just the flesh, it would soon be followed by the bones and inner organs. Zhuofan could only grit his teeth and follow through. If not for wishing to save Xuaningxiang, he wouldn't have chosen this path, no matter how amazing the result. Too cruel. The strange array never stopped revolving, feeding Zhuofan's body with diamond sand. After 2 long hours, his muscles were broken down to the last fragment, then the diamond sand continued on to pierce his bones. Zhuofan shook from the pain and a grunt escaped his clenched teeth. Yelling would only amplify his suffering until he could take it no more. To avoid his demise, he forced his mouth shut while his eyes bulged out of his blanched face. Damn rotten, decrepit, senile 9 Serenities Emperor. How the hell did you come up with this insane refining method? The moment the diamond sand entered his bones, Zhuofan spasmed. He couldn't even speak, so he cursed the first demon emperor of ages past. In his mind, had the demon emperor heard, his reply would be mockery. Did I push your hand? Who lied to you that a meager thing like you can succeed? Suddenly Zhuofan's body seized up 1 second and laid limp the next. His skeleton was turned to dust in that instant. Such pain filled his eyes with tears, but he was now nothing more than a pile of mush. And all he could do was lie paralyzed on the ground. There's also the last step, body remodeling. Zhuofan was sweating bullets as he sucked in a deep breath through gritted teeth. With his skeleton nothing more than a bone meal, the diamond sand burrowed deep into his organs. It didn't wait to stick to them like before but punched right through them. Zhuofan's organs were shredded and he was spewing blood mixed with flesh again and again. The blood seeped into the strange array and fused with it. Yet despite the constant flow of blood and the sweat and the pain, his lips curled into a sinister grin. I have prevailed. Now only body remodeling is left. Zhuofan's smile was wiped away by a wail. It didn't go as planned. The diamond sand finished with his organs and went for his brain. Be it a mortal or cultivator, the brain was the weakest for both, as it was the place that housed one's soul. Diamond sand was raining havoc in his very soul, his mind. Once it was gone, his death would be final. He felt as if thousands of ghosts were assailing him, a pain down to the bottom of his core. It was thousands of times crueler than the first step. But unlike before, when his mind was clear, the pain was now eating away at his consciousness. His soul was slowly being spent and was on the verge of shattering. And all he could do was wait for his demise. Ha ha ha, for me, the Grand Demonic Emperor, to die at my own hand. How ironic. If only I knew how wretched this body refining method was. Zhuofan chastised himself as he grew weaker. All this while, the strange array never stopped spinning, and the remaining diamond sand on it was soaked in his blood, but he was too far gone to even care. He was hanging by a thread, one that thinned by the second. What struck him as odd was, why did he have to refine his body through this hellish torture? I must have gone insane. Why did I use this deviant secret art? Zhuofan shut his eyes with a trace of regret, as his life flashed before his eyes. Since he became a demonic cultivator, he overcame all trials bearing his path, becoming the leader of the 8 emperors in the sacred domain, the first below a saint, a path filled with glory. Then he gained the 9 serenities secret records, bringing him further joy, and though his disciples sold him out, he was reborn in the Luo clan, as a steward. Then he met Xie Tianyang and Xueningsiang. 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 Zhuofan's lips cracked open, muttering her name in his delirium. Then he flashed his eyes open and yelled, Ninga. He recalled why he chose this path. It was to save her. At that moment, the strange array spun faster and faster, encompassing everything in it in arcane power. Zhuofan's forehead released a blue flame that turned into tendrils and enveloped his body, to ultimately fuse into the strange array. Zhuofan had no clue that this secret body refining method didn't just refine the body, but one's spirit too. Its purpose was to unearth all potential of a cultivator. If only the body was refined through this method, failure was guaranteed and death was a certainty. When Zhuofan was nearing death, he woke up to the reason behind his choice, and his will to live thrummed with power. It resonated with his soul and allowed the blue flame in his body to fuse with the array. It was only now that this strange array displayed its true power. The array spun so fast that it kicked up a storm. It soon turned blue from the flame and melted the diamond sand before fusing it with Zhuofan's blood, flowing throughout his body. Golden blood soothed Zhuofan's lacerated body, breathing life into his muscles, bones, and organs. The blue flame returned to his forehead once the process was complete and fused with his soul. Zhuofan kept his eyes closed, unaware of what happened outside. He only felt his life renewing and growing with every passing moment. All this time, Blood Infant sat cross-legged in his dantian. Seeing the incoming golden blood, it was filled with ecstasy, swallowing as much as it could. It began to alternate between fading in and out of reality, to ultimately turn into a golden infant. It opened its eyes and they flashed golden, filled with vigor thanks to the blue flame. The pair of wings which streaked with lightning were turned into liquid and entered Zhuofan. In a blink, an image of a pair of blue wings appeared on his back with lightning flashing across them. Deep in the Allbeast mountain range, high up a mountain, laid a cave. And from this cave came the shocked voice of a strong middle-aged man. How come the azure flame I gave the kid is now gone? Did he remove it, or did he take control over it? Then laughter came from deep within the cave. Ha ha ha, I must be getting old. For that kid to erase it is already impossible, so how could he refine it? Not even a saint stage expert can receive my azure flame. Although, if he really removed it, How will I find him? Well, he'll come around sooner or later, ha ha ha. The man laughed in his cave, and the sound traveled for hundreds of miles, but there was no spiritual beast around to hear it. Chapter 76, Diamond Body. Chapter 76, Diamond Body. Blue Expanse City, Shui clan's entrance. When Shui Dingtian landed, he noticed that the place was eerily quiet. There weren't even guards around. It made his heart nervous and he rushed inside. He soon arrived outside the main hall. As he looked inside, he saw a familiar figure in the seat of honor, Hell Valley's seventh elder. Yugichi the seventh elder was leisurely nursing a cup of tea. I wasn't aware the seventh elder graced us with his presence. Please forgive me for not welcoming you. The seventh elder's presence here intimidated Shui Dingtian, but he forced himself to show proper respect as if all was normal in the world. Yugichi sipped his tea, then smashed it on the table plop. And Shui Dingtian's heart sank with it. Giving him a cursory glance, Yugichi broke out in an insidious grin. Shui Dingtian, you've been under Hell Valley's care for a century now. We've always been kind to you. Without a doubt. Thanks to Hell Valley and seventh elder assisting us, Shui clan reached today's glory. Shui Dingtian forced his anxiety down, hiding it behind a smile. Yugichi nodded and stood up. He strolled before Shui Dingtian and patted his shoulder with a warm smile. It's great that you think so, then. As he spoke, Yugichi's face twisted and clawed at Shui Dingtian's shoulder as he thundered, why did you collude with outsiders and steal Hell Valley's diamond sand? Shui Dingtian was shaking in fear and fell on his knees to kowtow. Seventh elder. This is a misunderstanding. The Shui clan has been nothing but loyal to Hell Valley. We would never do such a thing. Ha ha ha, there was a time I thought the same, that you wouldn't be taking advantage of our kindness then move behind our backs. But that time has long passed. Grunting, Yugichi slapped the table to splinters and barked, where is your grandchild, Xuaningxiang? Shui Dingtian stammered for a response, but words left him humph. I will tell you. She and two runts stole my diamond sand and they now lie dead in Allbeast Mountain Range. Yugichi's brow shook as he recalled the dreadful howl he heard at that time. If he had stayed a moment longer, he'd be a goner. Despite not finishing the trio off, he assumed the monster would have finished the job with how wounded they were. He thought ruefully about this event. Xuaningxiang was of use to him, but now she was gone. He came back empty-handed too, no diamond sand and neither a cauldron. Sighing, Yugichi placed his rage on the Shui clan men. Bring them in. Yugichi clapped and 3 bone tempering experts pulled 3 people in chains. Shui Dingtian was filled with sorrow and tears fell as he looked at them. They were Shui Wanlong and his sons, Shui Gang and Shui Lin. Heavy hooks dug deep into their shoulders, locking their clavicles in place and sealing their cultivation. From the bruises and wounds all over their bodies, it was clear how close they were to breathing their last seventh elder. Shui Dingtian bellowed and stared down the smirking Yugichi with bloodshot eyes. Shui clan sacrificed its all this past century for Hell Valley in defending Blue Expanse City. Is this how Hell Valley repays its vassal clan's hard work? He, your second-rate clan is nothing but garbage. Hell Valley can have as many as it wants. To me, you're no vassals, but somewhat useful watchdogs. We throw you a bone, a reward, and you should be skipping around in joy. When a dog starts raising questions to his master about getting credit for its hard work, it must be put down. Yugichi cackled, unable to bear Yugichi's mockery any further. Shui Dingtian clenched his fist and unleashed his fury, exerting his pressure as a profound heaven expert. He pushed back the 3 bone tempering experts around him while Yugichi just watched on with naked killing intent. It seems that the watchdog wants to take a bite out of its master, he. Then it's time to replace it. Yugichi. In his entire life, this was the first time Shui Dingtian uttered the seventh elder's taboo name out of sheer rage. Let me ask you. Isn't Ninga's marriage just a cover to use her as a cauldron and practice martial arts? Yugichi looked at him in surprise before laughing. Ha ha ha, I used to look down on you every time, but look at how smart you are. We've been at it for so long, yet you're the only vassal clan that figured it out. So that's why you defected. It's all for a silly girl. Bastard. Shui Dingtian's fury exploded and rushed with his entire yuan qi laid bare. I'll kill you. Yugichi sneered, sidestepping Shui Dingtian's palm and delivering an attack of his own. Bam. The hit on his chest upset his blood flow and Xue Dingtian spat blood as he tumbled backward. Yugichi made use of Xue Dingtian's prone condition and delivered 2 more palm attacks. Xue Dingtian felt his chest burning and he spurted blood like a fountain. Ha ha ha, Xue Dingtian, you think you have what it takes to kill me? You're nothing but a greenhorn profound heaven stage cultivator that just broke through, while I am in the 3rd layer. You are at the bottom and I am at the peak. You will never overcome this chasm. Yugichi then dealt another palm attack with bloodthirsty eyes. Old coot, die. But go in peace knowing that your son and grandsons will follow you. Powerless to do anything, Xue Dingtian closed his eyes awaiting the final strike. Such an ending, he never wished for his Xue clan. But at the very least, his dear granddaughter escaped this calamity. Xue Dingtian was relieved that Yugichi assumed her to be dead and wouldn't search for her. Stop! A high-pitched cry was heard and Yugichi stopped his attack midway. Looking ahead, he saw Xue Ningxiang at the gate, holding a dagger to her neck. You're alive. Yugichi was in shock. His sole reason for coming to this clan was to have her as a cauldron. Xue Ningxiang took in the sight of her suffering family, her grandfather beaten to a pulp, and her eyes teared. She only had hatred towards Yugichi for his cruelty. Dagger inching at her throat, Xue Ningxiang threatened, if you still want me as a cauldron, release them, or I will take my life right here and now. Yugichi mocked, hey, Ninga, get off your high horse. We do need you to practice martial arts, but you aren't irreplaceable. You have nothing to bargain with. Xue Ningxiang was startled and worry gnawed her heart, but she recalled Zhuo Fan's analysis and showed her white neck as she mocked, 7th Elder, you can't lie to me. I know Hell Valley lacks cauldrons, I know of my value. Since you do not care, then I will die along with my family. Xue Ningxiang then traced her dagger along her neck and blood trickled. Ninga, no. Stop. Xue Dingtian and Yugichi cried at once. Xue Ningxiang looked down on Yugichi, 7th Elder. It seems to me that you're not yet ready to let me go. Yugichi's ruthless eyes flashed. Is that runt still alive? Xue Ningxiang avoided his gaze. She knew who he was talking about. He died in Allbeast Mountain Range and you can go look for his body if you want to. But I'm afraid spiritual beasts would have devoured it by now. Humph, don't try to lie to me. Yugichi sneered, I have many enemies, but that runt was the first to bring me to such a state, coming back empty-handed and heavily wounded. Chuckling, Yugichi continued, girlie, don't take this the wrong way, but you do not have what it takes to see through me. That runt must have told you. Xue Ningxiang only stared back, to which Yugichi shook his head. In any case, I will have to take a step back. Since you put me on the spot, I will not take your family's lives. Really? Xue Ningxiang was about to go help her grandfather enjoy, but Yugichi shook his hand and a hook bit into Xue Dingtian. Ah! A wail of agony resounded and Xue Dingtian blacked out. His chest was soaked in blood and his clavicle was pierced, just like his son's. Yugichi, you. I said I won't kill them, but your grandfather is a profound heaven expert. I have to make sure he falls in line. I will, of course, let them go once we're at Hell Valley. You better honor your word. Xue Ningxiang stared at him nodding. Yugichi snickered, how could I lie when you're so valuable? Men, take Miss Ninga to rest, we will return to Hell Valley on the morrow. An elegant youth arrived next to Xue Ningxiang along with 2 servants. Zhuo Fan would have recognized him in an instant. He was Yu Ming, who infiltrated Blackwind Mountain as Yang Ming and later escaped Windgaze City. Standing next to Xue Ningxiang, Yu Ming snickered, so you are the cauldron for my senior's use? I have to say, you sure are pretty. Xue Ningxiang snorted and turned to look at her family as she left accompanied by the servants. Yu Ming shrugged then went to Yugichi. Master, what would you like us to do in regards to Luo clan? We have suffered greatly at the hands of their steward, Zhuo Fan. Xue Ningxiang's pace faltered at the name. Did you tell anyone else that he killed 2 of our elders? No. Yu Ming was cautious, even if I do, no one would believe me. Ha ha ha, I didn't believe it either. But a few months back, I met a freak of nature that countered everything I threw at him. With how large the world is, there are bound to be some monsters out there. Master, then, Yu Ming spoke softly shaking his head. Yugichi's eyes flashed with killing intent. We will deal with this runt first, then think of a way to end that Zhuo Fan. Or these 2 whelps will one day be Hell Valley's nightmare. Xuaningxiang was worried sick at his words and picked up the pace. She was worried since Yugichi had set his eyes on Zhuofan because of her. Yet none of them knew that the two whelps were one and the same. The night seemed endless to Xuaningxiang as her heart was unable to find peace at dawn. The first rays of sunlight washed over the unusually quiet Xue clan's small courtyard. A dozen servants were already tending to Xuaningxiang's preparations. Meanwhile, a shockwave passed through the first area of Allbeast mountain range and exposed a pitch-black cave. A naked man staggered outside in the gentle sunlight, giving his body a golden shine. His every step left deep prints in the earth, and even the rock crumbled to dust. He sheltered his eyes from the sunlight and looked around. He took another step and rested his hand on the cave wall for support, but his small action destroyed the stone wall completely and he fell to the ground. The man stood up among the rubble. However, the rock he was on also turned to dust. Taking a moment to adapt, his face now showed resolve. At a closer look, it was clear this man was Zhuofan, just that his every line and features were as if sculpted, exuding sharp power. When he opened his eyes, streaks of lightning sparked. Zhuofan got a feel of his body and revealed a manic grin. Everywhere he touched let out a metallic sound. He was immensely pleased with his body, which was now completely refined with the diamond sand and was as tough as a 5th-grade spiritual weapon. He then touched his forehead and a blue flame drifted out. This was the flame that the mysterious expert gifted. He couldn't control it until now. But through the strange array's refining, it fused with his soul and became his soul flame. He could now use it any way he wished. Thinking of this made him burst out in laughter. The refining process was hellish, excruciating, and deadly, but the result was astounding. He was now reborn with an unbreakable diamond body. Even a profound heaven expert wouldn't be able to make a dent in his body with but a thought. A pair of wings with lightning flickering over their surface burst from his back and lifted him 10 meters in the air. They were the wings of Thunder Skylark, a creature whose speed was incredible even against a profound heaven expert. This was why he chose to refine them into his body. With them, he became a freak, a true monster. Putting on new clothes, he flashed towards the blue expanse city like lightning. Chapter 77, Round 2, Start. Chapter 77, Round 2, Start. Young Miss is marrying. Outside Xueclan's gate, an obese granny yelled as Xuaningxiang was led outside by 2 servant girls. The entire Blue Expanse city gathered around to witness the event. Yugichi and Yu Ming sported a faint smile. Everyone was happy towards Hell Valley's show of gratitude. Some people were even tearing, imagining it was their family's daughter getting married. Xuaningxiang walked before the shocked masses. If before they were amazed by Hell Valley's power, now they were in awe by her beauty. Xuaningxiang was dressed in a common wedding gown but lacked the heavy makeup other brides had. Yet solely from this, her appearance evoked a feeling of genuine beauty, not a fake one from excess preparations. Pure as an orchid, making people afraid of marring, only this beauty deserved to be married into the 7 houses. The crowd gathered to see her smile, to wish her blessings, but their best wishes and kind thoughts only worked to burden Xuaningxiang's already heavy heart. Everyone here envied her second-rate clan for their marriage with one of the 7 houses, unaware of the hell that awaited her. Slanting her head towards Yugichi, Xuaningxiang asked in a cold tone, "Will 7th Elder accompany me?" "Ha ha ha, but of course. It is my duty to protect Miss Ninga and Hell Valley's disciples' wedding, to safely deliver you to Hell Valley." The crowd was once again in awe of their kindness. However, Xuaningxiang only showed a smile of disdain. "What safeguard? It's clearly for monitoring us. At least once Yugichi leaves Blue Expanse City, Big Brother Zhuo can escape." Before she could breathe easy, Yugichi saw through her and said with a cold smile, "Oh right, Miss Ninga, I sealed off Allbeast mountain range, even your secret tunnel. Those rats won't be able to escape from my palm." "You!" Xuaningxiang flared as her face blanched. It was her clan's secret and Yugichi must have pulled it out from her father and brothers. Zhuofan's means of escape was now cut off. 7th Elder, I want. "No need to say it." Yugichi cut her off with a cold smile. "Your life was exchanged for your family, nothing more nothing less. Miss Ninga, after you." He then shook his sleeve. A lavish palanquin was before her with 50 bone-tempering experts around it. Xuaningxiang frowned as she lifted her leg only to put it back down. She wanted to save Zhuofan, but Yugichi had her family's lives in his hand. She had nothing to bargain with. Suddenly, Xuaningxiang's thunder ring flashed and her heart seized in panic. "Don't come!" Xuaningxiang shouted at the sky, Startling the onlookers, no one except Yugichi understood the reason behind her reaction. With a sinister flash in his eyes, he patiently waited for his prey. Ninga, I have come to save you. In response to Xue Ningxiang's shout came another. It was Xie Tianyang piercing forward with star sword at Yugichi. Sword intent made the crowd gasp as they scattered. Yugichi just mocked, "Humph, so you want to die? A mere bone-tempering cultivator would find their death close at hand against me." Yugichi, unafraid of the fourth-grade spiritual weapon, struck back with a palm against the wind pressure of the palm. Xie Tianyang's sword tip trembled and the sword intent scattered. He was shocked but didn't use the sword to defend and added more power to it. A golden sword light flew from the sword tip and pierced the mighty palm. Then it continued towards Yugichi, space rupturing form. Yugichi's heart tightened and he vanished from his spot. The sword light struck the palanquin and turned it into splinters. Sword Marquise abode's profound ranked martial art, flowing spaces 9 forms. Yugichi appeared behind Xie Tianyang and spoke with derision, "You're from Sword Marquise abode. How can a boy wield its legacy? Are you? Humph, none of your business." Xie Tianyang snorted and stabbed backward. This time, the sword no longer had the imposing might. But everywhere it struck, it made space stagnate and Yugichi was slowed. Empty net. Xie Tianyang bellowed, "Humph, you don't know when to quit." Even with a profound ranked martial art, the gulch between bone-tempering stage and profound heaven stage cannot be overcome. Snorting, Yugichi vanished, only to appear in front of Xie Tianyang. Xie Tianyang was startled but could do nothing as Yugichi's palm slapped him into the air. When he landed, 6 bone-tempering experts surrounded him to make sure he didn't get up. "Humph, disgraceful runt. If not for Sword Marquise abode, you would have died by now." Yugichi mocked him. Xie Tianyang spat on his face and responded as if to spite him, "I dare you to kill me, but can you take responsibility for the war that follows?" "Ha ha ha." Wiping his face, Yugichi's tone turned colder with killing intent. "Damn kid, you think I'm scared? You made a mess in my city, so the Sword Marquise abode won't say anything even if I kill you." Yugichi slapped at Xie Tianyang's chest. Xue Ningxiang cried, "No." But Yugichi was dead set on killing him. "Stop." An aged voice echoed and a golden sword wave hacked down. Yugichi wasn't about to receive it. This attack was unlike Xie Tianyang's. It was backed by the power of a profound heaven expert. He stopped his attack and jumped 6 meters back. Boom. When the dust cleared, a meter-wide hole was in Yugichi's previous position. Its depth unknown. A white-haired old man drifted next to Xie Tianyang and fanned the bone-tempering experts away. 8th Elder. The old man looked frail, his eyes cloudy, a stark contrast to the true expert he was. Even his right hand was missing 3 fingers, yet this hand was bony and showed its blue veins clearly. Proof he was a seasoned swordsman. Xie Tianyang cried in joy while Yugichi sneered, "Jian Suifeng, 50 years no see. How have you been?" "Fine, until you came to ruin my mood." The elder spat through gritted teeth. His cloudy eyes seethed with bone-deep hatred. 8th Elder, "Thank God you're here. Help me save Ninga." Xue Ningxiang pulled Jian Suifeng's sleeve but Jian Suifeng shook his head. "Tianyang, this is Hell Valley's affair. We cannot get involved. Youngster, there'll be hell to pay if you poke your nose in others' business." Yugichi snickered, then turned to Jian Suifeng, "Case in point, you lost your 3 fingers due to the same reason." Jian Suifeng's eyes trembled from rage as he stared Yugichi down. "You think I would have fallen for your scheme if not for being young at that time? Ha ha ha, it would have been better if you had stayed quiet." Yu Ming laughed. "I heard from my master about Senior's matter, of the so-called undistinguished elder with rotten youth. At that time, if Senior hadn't lusted over a girl from one of Hell Valley's vassal clans, why would you force your way in her town, only to finally end with you ransomed by your glorious abode lord with 3 cities? Too bad about those 3 fingers, you had to leave those behind." Gritting his teeth, Jian Suifeng was so enraged that veins popped. "Yugichi, don't take it too far. Or what, you'll attack?" Yugichi made a sinister grin. 5 decades ago you couldn't beat me. And that hasn't changed even now, when we're just 1 layer apart. You best run along and call for your 7th Elder instead." He continued to ridicule Jian Suifeng. "I am in awe of the Sword Marquise abode's 13 Sword Elders' fame shaking the empire. But you're the only eyesore among them, not worth a dime." Jian Suifeng clenched his fists and shouted, "Tianyang, We're leaving. But 8th Elder, you must at least fight for the honor of Sword Marquis's abode even if we can't save Ninga. Leaving like this? Quiet. Can't you tell he's goading us? This here is Hell Valley's domain. Winning or losing here will put Sword Marquis's abode at a disadvantage. He glared once more at Yugichi and said to Xie Tianyang, remember Yugichi's title and how cunning he is. Next time you meet him, make sure to face him with ample preparation. Xie Tianyang looked at Xueningsiang not far ahead, and said in a determined tone, I know that. But if I don't save her today, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Ha ha ha, such is youth, ignorant of the world's dangers. Since Sword Marquis's abode's young master is so entertained by the idea of a hero saving a damsel, I will oblige by giving you a chance. Save not only her but also her clan, letting her feel ultimate gratitude towards you. Yugichi clapped and 4 bone tempering experts pulled 4 large crosses, with the entire Shui clan nailed on them, from old to young. Grandpa, Dad, brothers. Xueningsiang wailed and glared at Yugichi, 7th Elder. What are you doing? Acting my role as a villain. Yugichi then sent a grin towards Xie Tianyang. How will the young master play the hero otherwise? He then twisted his face and howled, attack. The bone-tempering experts took out hooks and clawed them into the Shui clan's members. Blood fell like rain and their howls rang in the air. They even found the strength to shout their lungs out when the hooks came out of their bodies. Not even Shui Dingtian, who was a profound heaven expert, was eased from this suffering. Xueningsiang was crying her heart out and yelled, Yugichi, stop or I will kill myself. Then I will kill them all. Yugichi roared in return. Xueningsiang was rooted to the spot, powerless to alleviate the painful cries of her family. Her knees softened and she collapsed, as did her mind snickering next to her ear. Yu Ming reveled in her pain. Girlie, get off your high horse. You're in no position to demand anything from my master. He is Insidious Demon, the #1 sage of Hell Valley. So many people from the 7 houses have fallen to my master's ploys, and you think you can best him at that? Ha ha ha, I'll have you know this too. It's because you angered him that he chose this course of action. You might have a bargaining chip, but too bad, you're too naive. And don't forget he has a bargaining chip too, rather close at hand. Xueningsiang lifted her head but all they conveyed was emptiness and tears, despair and agony. She sacrificed herself to save her clan, but she was far from being able to win against this cunning fox. It instead earned his ire and now he was venting it all on her clan. It's all my fault. She blamed herself for everything. Who will save me now? Xueningsiang mumbled while looking at the sky in tears. Who can save us? Humph, idiot. Yu Ming mocked her but then shrugged. Idiot or not, a cauldron still has its use. Xie Tianyang saw Xueningsiang losing herself and his heart was in pain. Jian Suifeng stopped him from charging over with a shake of his head and a hand on his shoulder. The farther we are from Yugichi, the better. But 8th Elder, Xie Tianyang's words faltered as Jian Suifeng's hand squeezed his shoulder harder, afraid the kid would make a rash decision. Plop. Xie Tianyang collapsed to his knees, his spirit broken, his pride as a genius turned to nothing but tears of humiliation. The girl he liked was suffering before him and he was powerless to do anything. Then he suddenly recalled Zhuo Fan's words. It all went out just as Zhuo Fan had said. Xie Tianyang believed there was nothing he couldn't do, but now he realized how meager and weak he was. It seems that I was the coward all along, he muttered under his breath. Zhuo Fan, you bastard, where the hell are you? Xie Tianyang then raved through his manly tears and punched the ground until his fist inflamed. Jian Suifeng understood the kid's pain but couldn't help him. Suddenly, Xueningsiang's and Xie Tianyang's rings sparked. Only this time it was much stronger, similar to the time when the 3 thunder rings were close together. His here. Xie Tianyang looked around with hope. Xueningsiang shivered and her eyes began to regain clarity. She muttered looking at the thunder ring, Be big brother Zhuo. Rumble. Suddenly lightning streaked across the sunny sky. It struck down among the crucified Shui clan members and blasted out the bone-tempering experts there in all directions. The dust rose as lightning still flickered within and everyone was now trying to perceive through it. When the dust settled, it revealed Zhuo Fan sporting his manic grin. Yugichi, I lost the previous round. But the second round starts now. Chapter 78, Terrifying Power. Chapter 78, Terrifying Power. Who is he? asked Jen Suifeng when he saw Zhuo Fan through the dust. While being shocked by the feeling of dread the youth exuded, he was experienced enough to notice that Zhuo Fan had just entered the bone-tempering stage, and yet the aura and power the kid released held a threat to a profound heaven expert's life. This contradiction made it all feel bizarre. Xie Tianyang felt the same. Zhuo Fan's face, which was radiating golden, added an extra feeling of pressure. It was unlike that from a profound heaven expert, but felt like raw power was seeping in Zhuo Fan and threatened to destroy his last vestige of life. Everyone felt as if they were standing in front of a savage beast that was ready to pounce on them. He is a friend most untrustworthy, but also most dependable. Xie Tianyang smiled wryly as his body shivered. Not from fear, but excitement. He grasped the possibility that this new Zhuo Fan could save Xue Ningxiang. Jen Suifeng looked at Xie Tianyang in amazement. It was his first time seeing this arrogant and genius kid show such confidence and dependence on someone. Jen Suifeng turned to watch Zhuo Fan, to witness what made him so special. Ha ha ha, you not only survived but broke through. Yu Gichi sensed Zhuo Fan's entirely changed aura but dismissed it. The way he saw it, this was merely confidence from entering a new realm. He would learn on his own skin how weak a bone-tempering cultivator was in the face of a profound heaven expert, and his confidence will deflate like a balloon. One thing did strike him as odd though. He and Zhuo Fan last met a few months ago when the kid was in his 6th layer of qi condensation, and on his last breath. Yet here he was less than half a year later, unharmed and even advanced to bone-tempering stage. His speed sent shivers even down Yu Gichi's spine. How did this happen? Yu Gichi thought, this runt is a freak, and must definitely be put down for good. Yu Gichi snorted, Minga, go and end him for me. Zhuo Fan rose an eyebrow in ridicule. Oh, so it's you. That's fine. Last time you ran away and left me with regret, but I will be extra careful in making sure to end our grievance this time around. What, you two know each other? Yu Gichi jerked back at Yu Ming, only to see his prideful disciple shaking in his boots. Even his face was twisted, pale beyond belief. Useless. Even with me having your back, you're still this scared. Yu Gichi spat at his disciple's cowardice. It was fine if no one else was around, but with the two from Sword Marquis' abode here, it made quite the embarrassment. A damn lilla-livered punk threw all of Hell Valley's name into the ground. Jen Suifeng wasn't one to overlook the chance to laugh at their expense. Ha ha ha, a brilliant disciple matching a renowned master. Today I've seen Hell Valley's disciples' staunch will. Yu Gichi was turning green and kicked Yu Ming, who face-planted into the ground. What a disgrace. He just broke through, while you're in the 2nd layer of bone-tempering stage. Stumbling to his feet, Yu Ming took a short glance at Zhuo Fan. But Zhuo Fan's wicked grin seemed to spell death, and so he threw himself at Yu Gichi's feet with a wail. Master, he is Luo clan's steward, Zhuo Fan. Elder Jen and Elder Yun died because of him. Yu Gichi froze a second, then flitted a long look at Zhuo Fan. He finally seemed to understand Zhuo Fan's power wasn't limited to setting up 5th-grade arrays. He also had a cunning mind that almost made him pay with his life. It's no wonder the 2 elders died by his hand. In Hell Valley, elders were seen as figures of respect and worshipped by disciples, unrivaled in the world. But Yu Ming witnessed the death of 2, and now fear gnawed his heart like a demon. He will never muster the courage to face Zhuo Fan in this life, regardless of his advantage over him. With Yu Ming in the 2nd layer of bone-tempering stage, he should have no trouble dealing with the newly advanced Zhuo Fan. But was this notion still valid? Just look at him shivering. Yu Gichi sighed and patted Yu Ming's shoulder to remove his disciple's heart demon. His disciple had to kill Zhuo Fan himself, he stated coldly. Anyone willing to capture him will receive my reward. Elder, I will do it. A large man cupped his hands. He was in the 6th layer of the bone-tempering stage. Dealing with an early bone-tempering cultivator was easy pickings. The other guards were sad that they missed such a chance. Zhuo Fan was an easy contribution that just flew away. Yu Gichi nodded and turned Yu Ming's head towards Zhuo Fan. Minga, watch. This runt is only good with arrays. Now that he has no chance of setting one, he's done for. The guard will soon bring him over and you can kill him yourself to remove your heart demon. Yu Ming nodded and looked ahead. Jen Suifeng frowned. Yu Gichi sure lives up to his title. He instantly figured out his disciple's state and a way to help him overcome it. Tianyang, your friend is in danger. Xie Tianyang looked at the always composed Zhuo Fan and smiled. That punk never batted an eyelid. He will be fine. Such a reply rose Jian Suifeng's curiosity. The difference between the two is of 5 layers, so the outcome should be clear as day. The large man thundered towards Zhuo Fan with a cackle. Hey, you are a heaven-sent gift for me. I can't wait to receive my reward from the 7th elder once I hand you over. People die from greed, while birds die from hunger. It all depends on you if you can defeat me. Zhuo Fan snickered, ha ha ha. You sure have a big mouth for one who is about to die. One fist is enough to make you behave. The large man's punch was as fast as the wind and as strong as a mountain, yet Zhuo Fan didn't look like he had time to react. The boom shook in everyone's ears. Xie Tianyang's smile was gone, now replaced with shock that Zhuo Fan wasn't even able to dodge. He was able to contend equally with me when he was a qi condensation cultivator, so why didn't he move? Xue Ningxiang's face fell. Big brother Zhuo. Seeing that Zhuo Fan took the punch head-on, Hell Valley's guards started sneering. Hey, I knew he was done for, but never thought it'd be over so quickly. Did he really kill 2 of our elders? If he did, then I am first under heaven. Ha ha ha. Curses, that Morin got all the reward. Now I want to know what Valley Lord's gift will be. As the people started chattering, Zhuo Fan's threatening atmosphere soon disappeared from their hearts. Only Yugichi frowned, looking left and right. A wail pierced the noise of the crowd, and the large man was seen clutching his hand as he stumbled back. His hand was now a twisted and broken mess. Turning to Zhuo Fan, nothing seemed to have changed about him, still the same grin and the same demeanor. This is impossible. Jian Suifeng cried. A first-layer bone-tempering cultivator broke a 6th layer's hand with his face. Xie Tianyang's eyes bulged out. He knew Zhuo Fan always moved with a plan in mind, but even he found this new strength of this youth borderline perverse. With him like this, he'll have no trouble even against profound heaven expert. The crowd now lost their mocking gazes and were instead rooted in place by fear and shock. Zhuo Fan never paid them any heed as he strolled before the large man. The large man was groaning while holding his bleeding hand before he could react. His chest was then punched through by Zhuo Fan's fist. It all seemed so easy, as if he punched through paper. Zhuo Fan then flicked his hand and the large man splashed on the ground after a wide trail in the sky. The people watched in abject horror, the bulging eyes of the man, his vacant expression. Chapter 79, Human Weapon. Chapter 79, Human Weapon. Yes, obscene. This was the only apt description anyone could think of. Zhuo Fan's power far exceeded the common understanding, and only this word could encompass the height he reached. It was common knowledge that bone-tempering stage was the best period in a cultivator's life to temper one's body. Even a profound heaven expert could, at best, destroy a bone-tempering cultivator's organs. A far cry from what Zhuo Fan did, running one through. On top of that, Zhuo Fan just broke through, making this even unprecedented throughout history. Monster. It first began as a whisper, but this word grated everyone's ears and they all agreed to this adequate assessment. Fear was painted vividly on their faces. Hell Valley's bone-tempering guards were no longer envious of the lucky man. Instead, they felt sympathy for him. What rotten luck. Not only didn't he earn merit but threw his life away instead. Whoosh. Zhuo Fan was suddenly caught off guard by a white and black pair of chains as they coiled around him. Yugichi smirked, holding the other end of the chains. Damn, even with the kid's insane talent, he'll be mincemeat soon as he is locked by the 4th-grade demonic treasure. Jian Suifeng sighed. He was in awe of Zhuo Fan's ability, of his bright future, but a pity he'll die at insidious demon's hand. Xie Tianyang's heart tensed. He didn't foresee a profound heaven expert like Yugichi resorting to sneak attacks on a newly promoted bone-tempering cultivator. Although the person in question was a freak of nature, it was still despicable. Xue Ningxiang was happy at first but then turned worried. Zhuo Fan eyed the familiar demonic treasure and said, using such underhanded moves from the get-go, that too against a junior 7th elder, seems like you do not care about Hell Valley's name. Yugichi laughed dryly. You're smart to notice my intention from a look. There is hardly anyone compared to your caliber in the Tianyu Empire. You are one outstanding devil that not even I dare to neglect. Ha ha ha. I truly admire the 7th elder's cautious nature. In any case, this junior came without any plan or scheme prepared, only to end you myself. Yet you're so prudent regardless. Yugichi's mood darkened. Reading between the lines, he knew Zhuo Fan mocked him for his yellow-bellied attitude. Even he had his limits, especially when humiliated in front of such a crowd by a bone-tempering junior runt. Say that again and I'll make sure there won't even be a corpse left of you. Am I wrong? Zhuo Fan cocked his head and laughed. With your character, the faster you kill your opponent the better. Yet the first thing you did when I arrived was to send your disciple to test the waters, only to have him reduced to a shivering mess from fear to the point he ignored your orders. And left with no choice, you sent that buffoon to his death in the name of curing your disciple's heart demon. There's no need to even mention winning, but just in case he failed, it wasn't that much of a loss since it offered you the perfect timing to blindside me when I finished him off. And this is the result. Zhuo Fan enlightened everyone, and even Jian Suifeng was startled so much that his fear for Yugichi grew. He wasn't Yugichi's match, and if he were in Zhuo Fan's stead, Yugichi would have succeeded in his devious plan. Yugichi is ruthless and cunning to the extreme. Yet that Zhuo Fan isn't any better, discovering his ploy in an instant. The insidious demon showing such an extreme caution against a bone-tempering cultivator not only shocked him but everyone present. On the other hand, Zhuo Fan wasn't in the least beneath Yugichi in cunningness. Thinking about this let Jian Suifeng hold Zhuo Fan in higher regard. Hi. Aren't you caught in my web despite seeing through it? Yugichi snickered with killing intent. I just need to twitch my arm and you'll turn putty. Zhuo Fan rose an eyebrow and laughed. Say, how did a sinister old coot like you turn so stupid? You think it's that easy to trap me since I saw through you? Zhuo Fan's eyes gleamed and lightning cracked. Bam! Yugichi couldn't even react before the chains were thrown away. Zhuo Fan now sported a pair of 10-meter-long wings streaked by flashing lightning. Thunder Skylark's wings? Xie Tianyang cried. Zhuo Fan had appropriated the Thunder Skylark's body for himself. But Xie Tianyang didn't expect him to refine its wings into a demonic treasure since the Thunder Skylark was a 6th-level spiritual beast. Adding the diamond sand into the equation, the refined demonic treasure would also be 6th grade. Xie Tianyang was in glee. 6th grade flying demonic treasure? Yugichi's tone was grave. With it, you can match a profound heaven expert's speed, however. As he spoke, he flicked the yin-yang chains. The chains moved individually from opposite directions to seal Zhuo Fan's escape. A profound heaven expert's advantage over bone-tempering cultivator isn't just limited to speed. I know that all too well. Zhuo Fan didn't care about the chains. A profound heaven expert relies on his quick moves in melee, not something a flying demonic treasure can overcome. But then, the chains were about to strike Zhuo Fan, one aiming his head and the other his chest. Whoosh! The pair of wings moved like independent arms and swatted the chains away. Yugichi and Jian Suifeng jerked in shock. This can't be possible. There was an ancient story that spoke of flying demonic treasures that could change shape at the wielder's will and launch attacks. But a demonic treasure was inanimate, so how could it do that? The people there watched Zhuo Fan as if they were looking at a monster. He sported a faint smile as he spoke at leisure. But when did I say it's a demonic treasure? While demonic treasures were refined as tools, Zhuo Fan refined the wings into his body. In other words, they were part of his body. He could let them out at will and make them move as he wished. He was no longer your average human being, but a human weapon. If the wings were a 6th grade demonic treasure, then his body had become a 5th grade demonic treasure refined through the method of diamond sand tempering. This wasn't something Yugichi and the rest could fathom when not even the denizens of Sacred Domain couldn't. The only ones who could comprehend this were those ancient talents who held the 9 Serenities' secret records and were aware of the deviant secret method to refine materials into their human body. Damn freak. Even the calm Yugichi had to curse through gritted teeth. His eyes were bloodshot and his hands were poised to strike. The 2 chains flitted everywhere and soon became 2, then 4, then 8. Numerous chains approached from every angle like a rain of death, all aiming for Zhuo Fan. He wanted to beat Zhuo Fan to a pulp, but Zhuo Fan smiled fearlessly as he stood his ground. His eyes flashed and the wings moved like lightning. Only the sounds of cracking lightning and grating metal were heard, while not even a trace of the chains nor the wings was seen. But the flickering lightning was proof enough for everyone to know of the bitter fight the two were in. This was a profound heaven expert's speed. This gave a shock to the audience and let them know how weak they were against a profound heaven expert. But Zhuo Fan was the one who agitated them the most. A bone-tempering cultivator had such power. Xie Tianyang watched numbly with incredulous eyes at how deep the gap between them was. Even more so when Zhuo Fan of yesterday was a far cry from today. 8th Elder, what can you see? Xie Tianyang saw Jian Suifeng standing there in a daze without blinking. He never saw his elder so astonished in his life. Yu Giqi is pushing hard with his attacks, but Zhuo Fan is blocking them all. It is unclear as to the outcome, but Yu Giqi seems to have the upper hand. Jian Suifeng stated so, but his eyes never left the fight. Afraid of missing anything, Xie Tianyang was despondent. His and Zhuo Fan's gap was now even bigger. Zhuo Fan of before won with arrays, while now he relied only on himself in merely a single day. Their positions switched so much that Xie Tianyang was left far behind in the dust. Chapter 80, Face Slapping. Chapter 80, Face Slapping. Whoosh. The metallic and lightning sounds came to an abrupt stop. Zhuo Fan's expression was one of focus as he halted his wings while Yu Giqi was nowhere in sight. A sound broke the silence and Zhuo Fan's heart seized. He instinctively bent his wings. Ding. His wings blocked the sneak attack of the chains from behind, but a cold needle was speeding at his back. It was Yu Giqi with his third-grade demonic treasure, Twisted Needle. Hehehe, runt, what are you going to do now? Yu Giqi snickered. Zhuo Fan's wings were occupied with the yin-yang chains. The third-grade demonic treasure's attack came at an impeccable timing, right when Zhuo Fan's movement was sealed. Not even Yu Giqi could get out of this one if he was in Zhuo Fan's place, but Zhuo Fan only muttered, mystifying phantom step. Whoosh! He vanished from his place and the chains along with the twisted needle lost their target, throwing Yu Giqi off balance. Then Zhuo Fan came from behind using his wings as axes, aiming for Yu Giqi's neck. Ding! With a crisp sound, the wings and yin-yang chains clashed again. But this time, their roles were reversed. The situation flipped in a blink, with Zhuo Fan now pressing his advantage. Even Jian Suifeng was affected by this sudden turn. Hell Valley's #1 sage, Yu Giqi, was driven to a corner by a youth 7th elder. How does it feel to be on the receiving end of a sneak attack? Zhuo Fan's wings pushed against the yin-yang chains until Yu Giqi leaned backward. If I also had a third-grade demonic treasure, you'd be dead by now. Yet despite your efforts and the golden opportunity, I'm still alive and kicking, so to speak. Yu Giqi's face flushed and was gasping heavily to ease the rage within him. Zhuo Fan's words were an affront to his title. Yu Giqi wasn't powerful because of his cultivation, but because of his title as Insidious Demon, the #1 sage of Hell Valley. Yet Zhuo Fan was mocking his pride. The same as saying, if I were you, I would have long killed my opponent with a sneak attack and wouldn't need to waste time chatting them up. This was the worst humiliation Yu Giqi ever suffered. One may mock his character, his devious nature, yet he would take them all as badges of honor. But never ever would he allow one to insult his intelligence. That was where he drew the line. Anyone who mocked him for a fool, he would make sure to give them a fate worse than death. Yet Zhuo Fan had him beaten at every corner and kept mocking him, with him powerless to prevent it. This brought a never-felt feeling of resentment. Don't get too cocky, damn runt. Yu Giqi's anger reached a breaking point. His yuan qi exploded, flinging Zhuo Fan's wings aside. Then, he swirled his chains at Zhuo Fan, leaving behind after images. Yu Giqi was at peak speed, and with the added effect of the yin-yang chains, he reached a new height. Zhuo Fan remained calm as he laughed. His figure darted around with the help of mystifying phantom step and his wings, moving even faster than Yu Giqi. The people were once again bearing witness to after images and metallic sounds clashing with streaks of lightning, but never a clear image of any of the two's bitter fight. They flashed across the entire plaza, one moment to the east, the next to the west, flashing in every direction possible and even around the bone-tempering guards. But since the people could only hear them and not see, they stood there in fear. One slip, one errant move from their part and only pieces would remain of them. 8th elder, how does it look? When Yu Giqi and Zhuo Fan were at a standstill with demonic treasures, Xie Tianyang could grasp some of the situation. But as the matter devolved to such a state, he was unable to see them and had to defer to Jian Suifeng's assessment. Jian Suifeng, however, gestured for Xie Tianyang's silence as he focused his all on the fight. After one huge boom, two figures reappeared. Zhuo Fan crossed his hands casually, standing in the same spot, while Yu Giqi was gasping for breath. Zhuo Fan's nonchalant attitude left not only him but also Jian Suifeng in shock. Who won? Xie Tianyang knew but still couldn't help ask. Jian Suifeng was solemn. Soon you will know. Thunderous booms echoed and a score of bone-tempering guards were struck down by lightning. It burst their heads and liquefied their organs. The other guards fled for 50 meters in anxiety while Yu Giqi and Zhuo Fan stood across each other, Having known of this long ago, what's happening? Xie Tianyang darted his eyes to the corpses in fear. Jian Suifeng's eyes never left Zhuo Fan as he spoke in a grave tone. Tianyang, your friend is terrifying. I've never seen anyone like him. That Yu Giqi, he has never suffered as much as he has now. Xie Tianyang didn't understand, but Jian Suifeng continued, in their clashes, Yu Giqi was giving his all. They attacked each other again and again and made me believe Zhuo Fan was also fighting with everything. Then suddenly, his speed jumped. But what? Xie Tianyang seemed impatient. Jian Suifeng revealed an imperceptible smile, but instead of ending this battle, he dragged Yu Giqi around, killing guards right under Yu Giqi's eyes. Xie Tianyang was startled. Why do this? Why didn't he finish the old man off if he had the chance? Ha ha ha, this is where the kid is truly terrifying. Jian Suifeng's eyes shook and he turned serious. He did it to mock that old fool. An elder was led by the nose by a snot-nosed brat, killing a score of his men yet powerless to stop it. Yu Giqi, known as the insidious demon, was played around by a bone-tempering kid as a cat plays with a mouse. Will there be any pride left in him after this? Zhuo Fan and Yu Giqi are the same. Offending such a person would invite a world of suffering. Because their revenge isn't limited to killing you, but robbing you of all you hold dear, including pride. Death only comes after there is nothing left to plunder. Jian Suifeng suddenly laughed, feeling all his grievances get washed away. Only evil can fight evil. Yu Giqi was despicable in his ways for too long, and today he met his match in a little demon who has a heart just as black as his. How refreshing. Jian Suifeng's laughter rang in everyone's ears and jarred Yu Giqi's. The latter was burning with rage and was close to spewing blood. He felt miserable every time he saw Zhuo Fan standing smug. Zhuo Fan's power exceeded his predictions by far. In the first move itself, he discovered that Zhuo Fan had surpassed him. He not only treated this fight as a spar but also had the leisure to kill his men. Zhuo Fan left him powerless. Especially when it came to schemes, where Zhuo Fan was at his level, if not higher. Yu Giqi felt his head hurt, feeling weak and feeble for the first time. No, this can't end like this. If this gets dragged on for long, he will kill me. I need to end it in one blow. Yu Giqi had a plan in mind but didn't know if it would work, especially in Zhuo Fan's case. But he was left with no choice. His eyes flashed and flung the chains at Zhuo Fan. This thing won't work on me. Zhuo Fan smirked, readying his wings, but the yin-yang chains veered off from him at the last minute, aiming for Xuaningxiang. Xuaningxiang was rooted in fear, but Zhuo Fan appeared before her in a flash of lightning and flung the chains with his wings. Ha ha ha, I see it now. Yu Giqi laughed hysterically. Zhuo Fan, oh Zhuo Fan, I found your weakness. In the All-Beast mountain range, you ingrained a deep fear in these old bones with your constant attacks, so I thought you came this time seeking revenge. But now I see it was all for her. And you think this changes anything? You will die just as well. Zhuo Fan stated. Humph, if you bore the same ruthlessness you showed before, I would have some misgivings. But you care for this girl and placed victory in my grasp. Ha ha ha. Chapter 81 Instant Kill. Chapter 81 Instant Kill. Yu Giqi jumped in the air and performed a double hand sign. A demonic face appeared, twisted in malice and pain. Hell Valley's profound ranked martial art, demonic face seal. Jian Suifeng shouted, this martial art is focused on striking at one's soul. It is undefendable. Even radiant stage cultivators will find it hard to cope with such an attack. The lightest injury is dizziness, while the worse would be death. His words traveled to Zhuo Fan's ears as a clear warning. Yu Giqi noticed this but laughed instead. Damn runt, if you dodge, the demonic face seal will kill the girl. If you try to take her, you won't make it. Big brother Zhuo, forget about me and leave. I can die in peace knowing you will save my family. Xuaningxiang urged. Zhuo Fan looked back with a smile, then spoke coldly at Yu Giqi, she is mine. As long as I'm here, you can't harm her. Then I will kill you, ha 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 ha. Yu Giqi pointed and the demonic face wailed on its way towards Zhuo Fan. Xuaningxiang was nervous and was about to jump in front, but Zhuo Fan stopped her with his wing boom. The demonic face smashed on Zhuo Fan and thousands of grey tendrils of energy wrapped around him. The cries of lamentation, similar to that of a being starved for centuries and finally finding food, were heard all around. Xie Tianyang turned towards Jian Suifeng in anxiety, but the latter only sighed. Even a profound heaven expert was powerless in the face of such an attack. Least of all a bone-tempering cultivator. Xuaningxiang couldn't hold back her tears. Hi. Damn runt, lust is your downfall. A demonic cultivator should be ruthless, yet you let emotion cloud your judgment and make you weak. Yu Giqi cackled as he turned to Xuaningxiang. Wench, his death is on you. Xuaningxiang watched Zhuo Fan become grey and her cries became heart-rending. If not for saving her, he could have lived. Big brother Zhuo, forgive me, it's all my fault. Xuaningxiang sobbed. Ha, foolish girl, don't let that old goat see you cry. You're only bringing him satisfaction. Suddenly, Zhuo Fan's voice came from within the ball of grey tendrils. The crowd was shocked. Wasn't Zhuo Fan reeked with pain inside there? How is he so calm? Yu Giqi cried in fear. This isn't possible. His soul should have been swallowed whole. Ha, you want to kill me with a parlor trick? Aren't you a tad bit naive, insidious demon? An azure flame flashed from within the grey tendrils. The grey energy retreated every time the flame moved. As the grey energy withdrew, Zhuo Fan was soon revealed before the crowd with an azure light coming from his forehead. Zhuo Fan muttered, "Demon transformation art." Suddenly, the grey energy wailed as they were devoured by the azure flame. And Zhuo Fan felt his soul growing stronger. As result, demon transformation art was originally used to absorb everything to promote one's cultivation. The reason he couldn't absorb souls so far was because his own wasn't strong enough. It would only be a detriment if the result would have harmed him instead, but since he refined his soul, it grew in power, akin to radiant stage cultivator's level. And having the strange azure flame as a protector, this measly amount of vengeful ghosts were nothing more than a snack after the flame removed the waste. Eyeing Yu Giqi in the air, Zhuo Fan mocked, "Is that it? If you have no trick up your sleeve, guess I'll have to get serious." Get serious? Hey, stop showing off. Are you saying you've been playing around all this time? Yu Giqi was both angry and startled. Startled that Zhuo Fan could dismiss such a strong attack and angry from his contempt, but that was how Zhuo Fan treated him. With naked contempt. Wasn't he insidious demon of Hell Valley, their number one sage? Despite all that, fear grew inside him. This was a foreign feeling to him since he always grasped his opponent's weakness before striking them down, but when he looked at Zhuo Fan, he only felt powerless despite everything he threw at the kid. Furthermore, he had a nagging feeling that all his moves were within Zhuo Fan's calculations. Zhuo Fan played him like a fiddle, leaving him without a shred of dignity. This fear he had was the worst he ever felt. Chuckling, Zhuo Fan mocked again, "Seventh Elder, I wonder, do you remember what you told me a few months back in the All-Beast mountain range? Against true power, all schemes are moot." Yu Giqi's eyes dilated, his heart sped up, and a bad feeling crept its way down his spine. "Today, I throw this line right back at you." Grinning, Zhuo Fan pointed at the sky, "In just one move, I will have your head." Bullshit. Yu Giqi could no longer take it and snapped. He now realized, Zhuo Fan's end goal this time was revenge against him. While he was only saving Xuaningxiang in passing from the moment Zhuo Fan showed up, he smacked the old man's face at every corner, to show him how useless his insidious demon moniker was before true power. "My intelligence is laughable when it comes face to face with raw power. My cunningness falls short to his." Zhuo Fan wanted to crush his pride as an insidious person, to die in pain. What a dreadful kid, far worse than even Yu Giqi. Jian Suifeng felt overwhelmed with shock. He is even more terrifying than Zhuge Changfeng. This thought helped Jian Suifeng understand Zhuo Fan's actions so far. It is unknown if he will one day be friend or foe. Observing him now is for the best. Ignoring the gazes around him, Zhuo Fan stared down Yu Giqi with delight in his eyes. Perhaps all demonic cultivators were at their happiest in the throes of slaughter. Zhuo Fan laughed. "Yu Giqi, ready? It's time you see what real power looks like." He jumped the next moment. Bam! He shot for Yu Giqi like a rocket. Yu Giqi attacked with his yin-yang chains. But with a flap of his wings, Zhuo Fan slipped right past them. Yin-yang chains couldn't even touch him and he was already punching at Yu Giqi. Ha, got you. Yu Giqi laughed and a black and white chain flew at Zhuo Fan's chest. But Zhuo Fan only said, "Oh, so you had another set of chains besides those two. But so what? With my power, all your plans are moot, including all you've hidden so far." Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed and a golden light flew from his body. It was the blood infant after being refined with diamond sand. The blood infant, which was comparable to a 5th-grade demonic treasure, charged at the black and white chain. The chains couldn't last even a second as blood infant tore through it along with Yugichi's arm. Yugichi was shocked to find that the golden light, which passed by his ear, had taken away not only the chain but also his arm. He only now woke up to the validity of Zhuofan's previous words, so much so that blood infant's power scared Yugichi. He had no time to feel the loss of his arm when Zhuofan's punch was right at his face. Damn runt, you think you can kill me in one move? He knew his death was sealed, but he wasn't about to let Zhuofan determine how he died, or he really would never rest in the afterlife. The only reason he still fought was for his honor. Whoosh. 3rd-grade demonic treasure. Twisted needle flew from his sleeve towards Zhuofan's fist. As long as he stopped the fist, he wouldn't die in one blow. Such was the glorious mind of the number 1 sage in Hell Valley, reduced to after fighting with an equally insidious demon. Zhuofan was here to make sure he would be left without a scrap of honor. The punch still moved without hesitation, meeting with the twisted needle, to the joy and hope of Yugichi, but the crisp sound that resulted from the contact revealed that the twisted needle broke in two. The fist was unaffected in the slightest as it bore into Yugichi's chest. Yugichi watched in horror and muttered, What kind of damn monster are you? Humph, I don't mind telling you. My body is as strong as a 5th-grade demonic treasure. Yours was only a 3rd-grade demonic treasure, and as for why I'm such a freak. Zhuofan's eyes flashed as he recalled the endless anguish and torment he had to live through. Isn't it all your fault? Roaring, Zhuofan threw his fist and flung Yugichi into the ground, smashing a few buildings. Blood flew from Yugichi's mouth as he watched Zhuofan in the air with shock and loss. How does your freakish change have anything to do with me? With this final thought, Yugichi's head sagged and breathed his last. His eyes were wide open, never to find peace. Chapter 82, Shocking Fame. Chapter 82, Shocking Fame. Zhuofan spread his wings among the clouds and hovered like a god towering above the ants. In his hand, he was clutching a still-beating heart which was dripping blood, but the owner of this heart had long met his end and was no more than a stiff corpse, never again able to find peace from the horrors he endured. The onlookers raised their heads in shock, but witnessing the majesty of Zhuofan, they even forgot to breathe. Fear was almost palpable among the Hell Valley's guards. In just a single blow, the notorious insidious demon, the number 1 sage of Hell Valley, Yugichi died. Xie Tianyang was in denial of what he witnessed. Even Jian Suifeng was swept by fear as he gazed upon the youth hovering in the sky, a true monster. Jian Suifeng muttered. Zhuofan simply relaxed his grip and the heart dropped down to the ground with a splat, but this casual action seized everyone's hearts as Zhuofan's cold stare roamed among the people. They lowered their heads in fear, horrified that the demon would set his gaze on them. Zhuofan, however, only laughed. That guy must have run off to his house. He actually slipped away again. He suddenly swooped down, alarming the people into scattering. But he went by Xuaningxiang and held her. Xuaningxiang let out a short cry before being carried into the clouds. They both then disappeared in a lightning flash in a clearing outside Blue Expanse City. Lightning sparked, revealing Xuaningxiang and Zhuofan landing. As he eased her onto the ground, she looked at him in puzzlement. Zhuofan had a faint smile. I said that I will take you out of the city, and I have. Now, I have fulfilled my promise. Is this the outside world? Xuaningxiang darted her eyes around and breathed in, a smile playing on her lips. This is the first time I'm walking outside the city. I'm finally out. Xuaningxiang laughed and blushed. Thank you, big brother Zhuo. It's nothing. We shook on it, didn't we? Zhuofan said, Ninga, this might be the right time to say goodbye. You're leaving? Xuaningxiang jerked her head up, her eyes fixed on Zhuofan. Where to? He sighed as he said, I don't know. There are still so many things I need to do. The most pressing matters were finding the Lightning Canyon, Heavenly Emperor's remnant, and searching for experts to strengthen the Luo clan. Despite having no clue where to start on any of them, he had to keep looking. Xuaningxiang saw his mind was set and spoke softly. Big brother Zhuo, can I come with you? No. Zhuofan denied. With your strength, you will be in too much danger. Xuaningxiang lowered her head in defeat. She knew she'd be just a burden to him if she went. Zhuofan tousled her head with a smile. And you still have your clan to look after. Shui clan offended Hell Valley and needs to find someone that can protect it. The Sword Marquis's abode is a good choice. From Xie Tianyang's sharp mouth, he must be quite high-placed. If he vouches for you, Sword Marquis's abode is sure to take you in. Xue Ningxiang raised her head, then nodded. Now was the time to look for a safe place for her clan. It would be too cruel of her, and selfish, to go with Zhuo Fan and leave her father and brothers in danger. She was embarrassed but still felt reluctant to part with him. Ha ha ha. Bye, little sister. Zhuo Fan ruffled her head one last time and left with a smile. Tears formed in Xue Ningxiang's eyes as she shouted, Big brother Zhuo, when will we see each other again? When the thunder ring flashes. Zhuo Fan waved as he walked away, the thunder ring on his and Xue Ningxiang's fingers flashing. In another area, Jian Suifeng was looking down on Yu Giche's corpse, the enemy who robbed him of his 3 fingers. He recalled Yu Giche's wretched death and his mood livened. Oh, Yu Giche, what a tragedy befell you, one of the great men of Tianyu Empire. Jian Suifeng found that the Hell Valley guards Zhuo Fan routed were now scrambling away from this place, abandoning even their elder's body. Only a cold wind blew over the white hairs on Yu Giche's body, which was lying there on the cold and hard rubble. His eyes were wide, despite losing their light. Xie Tianyang was still looking at the sky, in Zhuo Fan's direction, but then spoke in a sour tone, Damn bastard, good for you killing Yu Giche, but what are you playing at taking Ninga? Tianyang, help the others down, we'll rush to Sword Marquis's abode to heal them. The Xue clan will become Sword Marquis's abode's vassal clan. Jian Suifeng indicated towards the crucified Xue clansman. Xie Tianyang jumped and smiled, that's my intention. 8th Elder, who knew we thought alike? I was also going to save Ninga's clan. Humph, who is like-minded with a brat? Jian Suifeng snorted, you've seen what that little monster is capable of. Only time will tell how far his strength will reach. Since he went out of his way to save these people, it won't hurt to earn his favor. We might even become friends in the future. And in case we stand on opposite sides, we can use these people as hostages to deal with him. Xie Tianyang only smiled wryly at his elder's reasoning. Humph, so you're not saving Xue clan because of me but because of that prick Zhuo Fan. Just who is a Sword Marquis's abode's core disciple here anyway? If this gets out, my name will be dragged through the mud. Although secretly cursing, he still went to work. Since this was his aim all along, to help Xue Ningxiang, yet none was the wiser as half a mile out, Yu Ming was curled up in shivers. His fear of Zhuo Fan grew out of proportion, to such a scale that he might never overcome this heart demon. Bastard, this is the 3rd time. What did I ever do to you? Everywhere I go, you come killing. Last time you killed 2 elders and this time you killed my master. Abomination. Yu Ming cursed Zhuo Fan to high heavens. But when Zhuo Fan's cold face resurfaced in his mind, shivers reeked his body. A month later, in the Emperor's gardens of the imperial capital, 2 old men were playing chess beneath a pavilion. One of them was dressed in a golden gown and had white temples and cloudy eyes. He was the Emperor of Tianyu Empire. The other elderly had a long beard, white hair, and exuded an imposing aura. Whenever a guard looked his way, their eyes were filled with respect. Among the melodious chirping of the garden birds, the chess pieces being moved made for a calming rhythm. Suddenly, a wail broke the blissful peace. Lord Father, something big just happened. A 200-kilo round ball of flesh rolled next to the Emperor. He shook the very earth he stepped on and threw the chess match into a mess, rubbing his forehead. The Emperor smiled dejectedly at the other man, who only smiled understandingly. Tsonga, didn't I tell you to face all events with calm? And haven't you noticed that I am playing chess with Mr. Sima? Why yes, I know my wrongs. Yuan Tsong rushed a bow to the Emperor and the elderly, then wiped the sweat from his forehead. Speak, what is the matter? The Emperor held on to another chess piece, not minding his son. Yuan Tsong forced his excitement down and said in a grave tone, reporting to Lord Father, Hell Valley's 7th elder was killed a month ago. The chess piece in the Emperor's hand clanked on the board and he looked at the frowning Mr. Sima. Who did it? The Emperor then turned his hardened face towards Yuan Tsong. Seeing no one around, Yuan Tsong whispered, it is someone from the clan we are currently endorsing, Luo clan's steward, Zhuo Fan. A month ago, something got into him that he killed the 7th elder of Hell Valley in Blue Expanse City under everyone's eyes. It was also revealed that he was the one who killed Hell Valley's 2 other elders in Windgaze City and used Veiled Dragon Pavilion as a patsy. What? A brat killed Hell Valley's 3 elders, their precious Yugichi included? What guts? Mr. Sima said to the emperor, Your Majesty, how should we handle it? The emperor evoked a faint smile and kept playing chess. If it only involved the 7 houses, it would have posed a headache. But as matters stand, Yuanshan won't have the cheek to complain to me. Don't let them snuff out the Luo clan. This pearl of mine is about to reveal its splendor, ha ha ha. Bam! The emperor slammed the chess piece with delight. Yuan Tsong looked long at the emperor, then bowed and left ****. Prime Minister's residence in the imperial capital. Prime Minister Zhuge Changfeng laid on a rocking chair with half-closed eyes, swaying gently. Suddenly, a black shadow whispered in his ear, What? Zhuge Changfeng flashed his eyes open in shock, then sighed. The balance between the 7 houses is now askew. I will need to make ample preparations for the aftermath. And he resumed his previous state, gently swaying on the rocking chair ****. High Priest's residence in imperial capital. A white-haired elder was reading through some information delivered by one of his men. As he read through, a frown appeared on his forehead and he signaled his men to withdraw with shaking steps. Deigning his old appearance, the elder walked into the observatory and looked up towards the sea of stars. The star of war is near and turmoil is on our doorsteps. A spark is enough to light this powder keg. The ruler is about to change. I only hope the people can weather the storm. *****. Veiled Dragon Pavilion's headquarters. Pavilion. Lord Long Yifi and some elders were in a meeting, but 2 young people were also present, Long Jie and Long Kuei. Because of their efforts and brilliant conduct, 7 days ago, Long Yifi officially allowed them to participate in the Elder Council, pleasing the 2 to no end. Recently, Xiao Kuei and Shou Jie have displayed impeccable conduct. I propose to send them to cultivate under the Grand Elder and learn the house's profound ranked martial art. Long Yifi smiled looking at the 2 and spoke with pride. 3rd Elder commented with a hardened look, These 2 kids progressed well, however, they are only average by contrast with the other house's genius disciples. How? 3rd Elder, don't underestimate us. We are on the verge of breaking through to the bone-tempering stage. Long Kuei protested while Long Jie was in accord. 3rd Elder is right. I heard rumors that Sword Marquis Abode Xie Tianyang became a bone-tempering expert 3 years prior. We are still far behind him. Shou Jie is so modest. You will do great deeds in the future. God Eye Long Ju nodded with satisfaction. A black crow perched on his shoulder, the soul-devouring crow he got from Zhuofan. Looking at the bird, Long Ju couldn't help his expression softening. If you 2 brats were half a man my brother Zhuo is, you'd be training our passed-down profound ranked martial art by now. Humph, Uncle Ju, why bring him into this? Long Kuei always became irritated whenever she heard Zhuofan's name. He is cocky, brash, and doesn't want to join Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Even if he has a smidgen of talent, that doesn't make his rise guaranteed. We will undoubtedly surpass him. A man suddenly barged in while shouting, Urgent report, Pavilion Lord. 3rd Elder waved him away after taking the report and read it. The next moment, his hand froze and the paper drifted to the floor. What's wrong, 3rd Elder? Long Ju picked up the paper in worry, never having seen 3rd Elder so spooked. But the contents left his soul in tears. Good brother, I owe you again. What is all this about? Long Yifi was inquisitive like the rest of the people present and took the paper. His brows shook and his voice betrayed his excitement. Hell Valley's Yugichi was killed by Zhuofan in Blue Expanse City. What? Everyone was dumbstruck who hadn't heard of Yugichi. He was the greatest headache of everyone, especially for Long Ju, who had his eye stolen in Yugichi's ploy, yet this dreadful man was killed by Zhuofan. Their shock was understandable. Even Long Jie and Long Kuei had heard of Yugichi's infamy. After all, he was a man feared by all elders of the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. They instantly felt how far behind Zhuofan had left them. Ha ha ha, well done. Long Yifi burst in laughter. I was right in my decision. This kid is a dragon among men. Increase our support to the Luo clan and send some men to safeguard their clan. I'm sure we all can agree on that. It was a unanimous decision. Not even the elders who were against Long Yifi proposing an alliance with Zhuofan showed any complaint. After all, none of them here could do what Zhuofan did. sending that Yugichi to his grave, and the Veiled Dragon Pavilion was just the beginning. The continent's clans soon came to know of this affair. Among the shocks and cries of joy, Zhuo Fan's name was etched in the minds of many clan leaders. Chapter 83 Hell Kill Order. Chapter 83 Hell Kill Order. In a lone valley, sieged by mountains on 3 sides and a narrow trail on the 4th, the sun's warm glow barely reached this place throughout the year. Being shrouded in mist, this place was a cesspool of poisonous insects and rats, yet this particularly strange environment led to the development of some of the rarest herbs the world had ever seen. To gather such ingredients, men braved many dangers through the valley, where the mortality rate was incredibly high and the ghosts of the fallen exacerbated the gloom. People came to call it Hell Valley. 1,000 years ago, a powerful group stumbled upon this odd place and established a foothold. They even set up a 5th-grade array to safeguard from the gruesomeness of this valley. This group was the Yu House, one of the 7 noble houses of Tianyu Empire. With time, people came to call this valley as the strongest house that could oppose the imperial family until now. In Hell Valley's meeting hall, Valley Lord Yu Wanshan was in a poor mood as he sat on his throne. Out of the 12 total seats, 9 seats were occupied by elders. Each time he glanced at the empty seats, his eyes turned savage. Yu Ming, Yu Wanshan bellowed, "Do you mean to say that 3 of Hell Valley's elders are dead because of a single kid?" Kowtowing on the ground and shivering uncontrollably, Yu Ming replied, "I wouldn't even think of lying to Valley Lord. Elder Jian, Elder Yun, as well as my master, 7th Elder, were indeed killed by Luo clan's steward, Zhuo Fan." "Useless wench." Yu Wanshan slapped the table. "You knew he killed 2 elders before, so why didn't you report this sooner?" "Spare me, Valley Lord. It was my master who forbade me. Master found it too weird and ordered me to keep it to myself. He told me that he will find the opportunity to deal with Zhuo Fan. But before he could, Zhuo Fan broke into our city and..." At this point, Yu Ming's voice was choked with sobs. The rest of the elders snorted. "All demonic cultivators are cruel and cold, so why is this punk getting so worked up? Throwing such a show would make them despise him." Instead, the elders were all clear this wasn't his fault, yet refrained from pardoning him. If they'd trade places, they would do the same. If not, they'd be accused of rash thinking, and that would be used as an excuse by some others to remove them. Who would believe that a fresh bone-tempering kid could kill a profound heaven-seasoned expert if not for it happening before countless eyes? Valley Lord, Yu Ming might have erred, but he had no control over what happened. "Our first priority is to deal with the aftermath." This was spoken by the 1st Elder on the right as he stood up. "Tianyu Empire's mighty clans have set their sights on us. If we let that kid go unpunished, what will the people think? We will become the laughingstock of the empire and our vassal clans will abandon us." Yu Wanshan frowned, his eyes filled with cruelty. "Grand Elder is right. We cannot let that punk get away with this. Wasn't he some steward of Luo clan? We'll make the Luo clan answer for his transgression." "Valley Lord, you mustn't." A deep and worried voice traveled from an old man with raven hair, seated on the opposite side of Grand Elder. Yu Wanshan snorted. "2nd Elder, what are you trying to say? Do you think it's all right for someone to kill our people, shame us, and then walk away? What will others think of Hell Valley?" "Valley Lord, I am not stopping you from settling this debt. Only..." 2nd Elder muttered something before resuming. "Valley Lord should remember the ban the Emperor enacted a year ago on the 7 houses, which was against stepping foot in Windgaze City. If we breach it openly, it will give the imperial family the excuse to strike." 2nd Elder makes a fair point. This is not the time to move in the open. And there are also reports that the imperial family and Veiled Dragon Pavilion's experts are patrolling nearby Windgaze City. We will fall into their trap if we go, Grand Elder urged. Eyeing the 2 most respected elders, Yu Wanshan hesitated for a while before spatting through gritted teeth. "We can't do this, we can't do that. What else can we actually do?" Even the elders turned silent. Yu Wanshan sighed. "This wouldn't have been such a headache if the 7th Elder was here. Blasted punk, he managed to rob me of my wisest advisor. When I get my hands on you, I will skin you alive." Seeing them all pensive, the kneeling Yu Ming darted his eyes left and right before making a tentative remark. "Valley Lord, may disciple be so bold as to convey a solution?" "Humph, The elders' meeting is not something you can join. Get the hell out. Yu Wanshan barked without even looking at Yu Ming. But Grand Elder's gesture detained him. Valley Lord, the kid can be considered as 7th Elder's successor. Why not give him a chance? Yu Wanshan conceded when he heard the Grand Elder's reason. Yu Ming's heart burst with joy as he rushed to explain, Valley Lord, this disciple's humble opinion is to ignore the Luo clan. From my observation, Luo clan is relying on Zhuo Fan. With him around, even if we remove the Luo clan, it will only make it worse for us. But if Zhuo Fan is out of the picture, then the Luo clan will fall from grace. They will have no hope of replacing us. Hell Valley. Yu Wanshan's eyes flickered. Go on. Yes. His mouth twisted in a smile. Yu Ming said, we cannot approach Windgaze City, but Zhuo Fan is nowhere near it either. We just need to focus all our efforts in dealing with him. And how will we find him? Yu Wanshan questioned. Issue the Hellkill order and have the Empire corner him. Yu Ming revealed his savage side. We will then know where he is going, and before he returns to Windgaze City, we can just ambush him. Yu Wanshan cackled. Good, that's what we'll do. Men. He then shouted orders. In my name as Hell Valley's leader, I declare the Hellkill order on Zhuo Fan. Anyone who provides clues to his location can become a vassal to Hell Valley. Anyone who brings me his head will become Hell Valley's #1 vassal, ruling above all others. Yu Wanshan's sinister laughter echoed, to which Yu Ming followed up with a vile smile. Zhuo Fan, you abomination. I won't dare face you, but now you have the whole empire after your head. Hey. Grand Elder smiled. As I thought, this kid is still thinking about revenge. But the Elder didn't care since Zhuo Fan was the enemy of Hell Valley. Grand Elder stated, Valley Lord, even if we declare Hellkill order on Zhuo Fan, since he killed 7th Elder, the weak clans won't be his match. I think we will have to act if we want to end him after all. Then all elders move out. Kill that bastard. Wait. Grand Elder gestured. He killed 7th Elder. Elders below 7th won't be of any help. From Mingus' retelling of him, he must be a body-refining demonic cultivator. The only ones who can stand up to him are the first 5 elders. Furthermore, he turned to a red-haired elder, 5th Elder, you refined your body with the scorching demon flame. Your unbreakable body is the perfect match for that kid. Don't look at me. Yet the man in question shook his hands again and again while smirking. I am about to join Drifting Flowers Edifice's 100-pill meeting. I don't have the time to run around after some snot-nosed brat. Humph, what's so great being invited by women to a meeting to discuss about pills? Is going there more important than taking revenge for the house? Yu Wanshan snapped. Grand Elder lightened the atmosphere with a smile. Valley Lord, the Drifting Flowers Edifice may be made up of women, but they are still one of the 7 houses. Establishing a close relationship will only work in our favor. They extended an invitation to 5th Elder since they took an interest in his fire attribute cultivation method, in hope of refining new pills. Humph, how did a bunch of skanks climb up to our position? One day I will personally go and take over their domain. Yu Wanshan said viciously. Grand Elder shook his head. Valley Lord, I would like to have Yu Ming participate in 7th Elder's place in our future Elder meetings. Staring at Yu Ming, Yu Wanshan nodded. Fine, raise him well, as the next insidious demon, ha ha ha. Yu Ming was overjoyed in his bowing. Meanwhile, in Blackwind Mountain, Captain Pang was cultivating by sitting on 36 blades. His body was riddled with scars. While cultivating, black tendrils of energy would leave his body, drift around the blades, and return back to him. But as each black tendril went back into his body, a new bloody scar adorned his wreaked body, making him frown. Suddenly, a shadow grew before him and Lei Yuting came from behind, cracking his eyelids. Captain Pang stood up with a smirk. Miss Lei's elusive shadow art is becoming more and more outstanding. I didn't even notice you were coming. Humph, your wraith art isn't any less impressive, reaching bone tempering stage in just a year. You're making those clans geniuses jealous. Hehehe, it's all because of Brother Zhuo. Captain Pang laughed and peeked next to him. Not 5 meters from him, a 15-year-old was braving above other blades as sweat marred his brow and trailed along his scarred body, but around him were corpses riddled with wounds, as if hacked by countless edged weapons. Damn it, what kind of vile method are you cultivating? Lei Yuting cursed. Captain Pang replied with indifference, of the 20 kids you sent, only one barely made it. Send me another batch. With just one survivor you want more? Lei Yuting raised her voice in shock. Captain Pang smirked, it's actually quite a good result. For 50 to die while training in this art is normal. But for Luo clan, everything is worth it. Humph, you are hard at cultivating, and what is that brother of yours doing? Snorting, Lei Yuting fetched a paper. He killed Hell Valley's 7th elder and they've issued a kill order. What? Captain Pang burst into laughter. Brother Zhua truly does incredible things, shaking the world everywhere he goes. Then he patted Lei Yuting's shoulder. Miss Lei, don't be too worried. With Brother Zhua's skills, Hell Valley's order won't affect him. Humph, who the hell cares about him? Lei Yuting muttered through gnashed teeth. He just went and provoked Hell Valley over a girl. Since when was he so goody-goody? Captain Pang grinned. So that's what it was, ha ha ha. Sometimes, Brother Zhua quite likes striking a heroic figure. Hero? My ass. You think I don't know him? Sighing, Lei Yuting turned into a shadow and vanished. Captain Pang shouted the next moment, don't mention this to young miss, especially the last part. But Lei Yuting's response didn't come. Captain Pang sighed, women. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.